We're live. What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having a good weekend so far. Hope everybody's got something running or ran some this weekend. I haven't had a chance to. But let's see. Oh, I guess I need to get this fixed. Get the comments up here so I can see them. There we go. Good deal. So where's Clint? I expected him or Yoshine or one of these fellas to be the first one to post. What's going on, everybody? Somebody post something there. I got my YouTube notifications, so those went out. That's good. Got to get these links up, so y'all bear with me while I get that done. I need Clint in here to do magic tricks while I put these links out there, man. He's supposed to entertain everybody. What's going on, Diamond Stuff? Good to see you. There he is. He's here. Him and Oshin. I knew they'd be here first. Oshin beat you. How's it going, Diamond Stuff? Much love right back at you, man. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. Well, no, it's not bigger. It just looks a little bigger. What's going on, my spirits? Good evening. Good evening. What's up, Patty? Uneventful week other than spicing some run from last week. That's eventful. That's something. At least you got something run. I'm slacking. I've been slacking, man. I should have run something this past week. Ann was gone, and I was batching it this weekend. I should have, or this past week, I should have run something, but yeah, it's tough. Had a lot to do. Had a lot on my shelf, so to speak. What's going on, GW? How's it going, brother? Hope everybody's having a good weekend. Let me get these links out there, and then we get down to brass tacks, so they say. I gotta do the drill, though. I hate. This is my least favorite part of doing this is putting these links out there. I really, really wish they'd streamline it for us. Supposed to try to make things easy for creators. It's definitely not easy at all. You know, sometimes you can just share a link and you just go through and just check the boxes of the groups that you want to share it to. Why can't they make this that easy? That's what I'd like to know. It should be that damn easy. But it's not. If you're listening on Facebook, do better. Add the check boxes, make it easy on us. Alright, let's see how many they're going to let me share today. You never know. It varies from day to day. I don't know if I'm on their good graces or bad graces. I think before they kind of limited me because we got in a little bit of trouble. I guess somebody mentioned something about drugs in the chat, and I don't know how they expect me to control what chat says, but you know, if it's bad or something like that, we usually take it out. So I'm not sure why they would blame us for something like that. But anyway, I guess I was being reprimanded. They didn't ban me, but I think they might have limited me on my sharing ability because all of a sudden I'm able to share a bunch again. So maybe they reviewed it. Maybe they just reviewed it and realized, wait a minute, it's not his fault, and he's talking about, you know, maybe it was when we talked about certain things that are toxic, right, and that, you know, like sassafras roots and things that are some drugs might be synthesized and made from. We talk about how toxic that is, and you shouldn't do it. That's not condoning it. It's definitely trying to be safe about it and keep people safe, and that's our biggest concern, making sure it's a safe hobby for everybody. I did see in the news, and I posted in the militia and in the DIY Shiny Stuff page, and Rock Gut, um, about some legislation coming out in the 6th District, which encompasses all of Tennessee, all of Kentucky, all of Ohio, and Michigan. There's a court case going before the appeals court, and hopefully in favor of allowing home distillation. Now, not get our hopes up, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. So that's something that we have been pushing for and talking about. So hopefully they can get that done. I know probably in Kentucky, it's going up against a large lobby. All these big distilleries every one of them are going to be against it because they don't want us making our stuff at home and not buying their stuff, right? So it's a control thing, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be, constitutional or not. It shouldn't matter on donors, but it does. It balances a lot on who donates and how much, and unfortunately, those are the people that influence a lot of our elected leaders that are supposed to follow what the constituents want, and not so much the handful of donors. But we'll just have to see. Hopefully we can get that passed, and it'll be something that we can all say. I know some people are like, well, they would take all the fun out of it. I don't do this to feel like a rebel. I'm doing it because I enjoy the hobby. But if you're doing it because it makes you like the excitement of breaking the law, or getting one past the man, or whatever, that's whatever. Whatever floats your boat. I'm definitely not going to judge anybody. But I just do it. I enjoy the hobby, and I enjoy tasting different libations and different distillates that I make. And trying to create something unique and special and different. It's a lot of fun. And that's not everybody's goal, nor should it be. Everybody's in it for different things. Some people just for a cheap drink, and some people for bragging rights, so they can make the best and brag about it and talk about how good their liquor is, and that's awesome, right? I do a little bit. I like bragging a little bit about my own stuff, so I'm definitely not going to knock that, because it's us guys kind of tend to be a little competitive, and gals too. So we all tend to be a little competitive with things, and that's good. That makes us bring our best out, right? And I should get more serious about the competitions. The last couple of competitions, I've kind of procrastinated and run things kind of at the last minute, and neither one of them. The peach was okay, but the watermelon was just horrible. It was horrible. I don't know about that, if I'll ever do much watermelon again. I might try. I don't know. It's an awful lot of expense just to tag on it. They're back to not so many this time. Damn. All right. Well, I had to put more links out at 9, but I didn't. Listen, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, back to a few. Maybe I was bad last week or something. Who knows? We'll see. So let's get to chat. See what's going on with everybody. Hello, Miss Lisa. Good to see you. Who else? So you saying you got something to run this week, Clint? I didn't. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir. Yeah, anything that has fructose or sugar or carbohydrates, starches, unless they're very starches that are very resistant to conversion, which there are some resistant starches, but there's usually an amylase or an enzyme that'll break it down, right? So yeah, just about everything. Yeah, definitely all your fruit juices and all that stuff can be. Now, one thing you have to do and watch out for in your juices are preservatives, right? So if you buy apple juice that's got a lot of preservatives in it, it's going to want to resist. I got a little hair, I think, on my nose, driving me nuts. That or I'm getting allergies again. But look for things like potassium metabisulfate or potassium sorbate or sodium. Uh, what's that? Sodium. Some sodium. Potassium metabisulfate, potassium sorbate, and sodium benzoate. That's what it is. Sodium benzoate. Look for those, and if they have those in it, it's going to be a little more difficult because those things are basically there to preserve, and what it's wanting to prevent is decay and breakdown, and that's actually what a fermentation is. It's breaking it down and breaking the sugars down, and it's a controlled rot essentially. So we control the rot by doing several things. We lower the acidity and increase the acidity of it, lowering the pH. We eliminate a lot of oxygen from it to help keep bacterial down. And we introduce yeast that help, start converting a lot of these sugars into alcohol. And the alcohol itself helps keep a lot of the bacterial and things down. So you're basically controlling the decay and adding a yeast to it. In which case, most decay have yeast already in it. Wild yeast are already there, and it's actually part of the process. So, but to answer your question in a simple way, absolutely, yeah, should be able to, unless it's got a lot of preservatives. Cooking some corn, that's awesome. Well, I would try to use some amylase in it because there's some starches still in there. Sweet corn isn't just all the sugars and sweetness, and plus some of the sweetness may need to be broke down a little further. So some of the sugars in there still may need to be broken down some. They may not be all consumable by yeast. So I'd still add the amylase to it, but it's probably going to require less. Now, as far as sweet corn, it, unless you're getting it really cheap, it's probably better. And well, I'm not going to say better. It's a lot less expensive and just as efficient. Now, better is in the eye of the beholder. It's when you taste it, it's an opinion, right? So, but the cost of sweet corn versus the cost of a yellow dent two, um, pretty large. Sweet corn's pretty expensive. In my opinion, what I like to do best with sweet corn is puree it up and put it in an infuser in the thumper, one or the other, and use it that way. Or you can put it in a brew bag and actually distill on the grain with some of that corn in your boiling in your mash, right, when you cook it off. As long as it's in a brew bag and it's suspended so it doesn't touch the bottom, and you're not dealing with powder, right? You're not dealing with a corn meal that's powdered and fine. If you're just taking basically sweet corn and mashing it, breaking it up so you can get to the middle of it a little bit, but it's not dried, so it's not going to be real powdery or anything, or sediment on the bottom of the. So you put that in a brew bag and put it in there. That'll work. Puree it up, and mix it with some cream corn and put that in your thumper or in your infuser. It helps a lot. But going to that expense and then making the liquor with it, it'll give you a unique taste. It may be a little bit different than a regular field corn would be, but is it worth the difference in cost? Because sweet corn is considerably more expensive, than what your yellow dent or your standard field corn is going to be. So, but yeah, it makes great. Both make great liquor. What's going on, Steve? Good to see you. Awesome, awesome. Well, I'll tell you now, those cuts are pretty tough on a 3 gallon, so you got to be pretty tight on those cuts. But that's great. Just watch your seals. Make sure your seals aren't leaking. Put a little liquid around your seals. Make sure they don't bubble. You know, that's one of the weaknesses of the 3 gallon pots and the stovetop pots, the Bevers, is that little gasket that goes into that copper. Be careful not to over tighten those or not tighten them enough. I know that kind of not tight enough or over tight. You got to do them just right. So be careful. Yeah. Yeah, we're doing good. How you doing, Tyler? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, gators or snow, man. How's it going, Sandy? Good to see you. Hope you're having a good Saturday night. Yeah, we'll get you a sweet corn recipe though. It's different and it's unique because it's not a full conversion, right? 'Cause you're starting with some sugars, whereas normally you're starting with starches, like in a yellow dent corn or a field corn. You're starting with starches that you break down. So we do go through the conversion, and after the conversions, we know a starting gravity, right? With this, you're starting with something that's kind of sweet. And it's going to be a little tougher to gauge, so you're going to probably have to stick pretty closely to a recipe, and I'll get you one and post it in the. Are you in the DIY Shine or the militia page? If so, I can find one on my and post it this evening. Because we get that question a lot, and yes, absolutely can make good liquor with sweet corn, but it's going to be a little bit different as far as um, preparation, right? Your amylase, the amount needed, cooking, gelatinization, it's all going to be different, but you can treat it the same, and it'll work out. But yeah, we'll get you a recipe and break it down. Yeah, yeah, I understand, brother. Yeah, hopefully we can get it legalized, man, because it's in your own home, right? It's not like we're doing it commercially. It's not like if you don't do it for sale, that'd be a little different. But yeah, it's definitely something that we should be able to do. Now that I would have never dreamed that marijuana would become legal before home distillation. I would have never dreamed that. What's going on, Brian? Good to see you, brother. I think a lot of us are outlaws. Awesome. Got your jar of homemade peach. That's some good stuff right there now. Peach cobbler. That's good. Yeah, rum is a lot easier than corn. Rum is basically, you're just taking molasses and water and adding, your oyster shells and some nutrients and just, kind of like a sugar shine, but based on something else. You can use brown sugar. It's a little easier than converting the corn. With the grain you have to go through the conversion process, use the amylase, and it's quite a bit more drawn out, a little more difficult. So generally, that's why we have everybody start with just basic sugar shine, just to learn the process of fermentation and what to expect. With a sugar shine, you're going to deal with probably a pH crash if you don't add those oyster shells, and you'll first time you'll learn the hard way. Well, definitely need to add those because my pH dropped to 2, so I definitely need to add that, or I need to keep my temperatures up because it was awful cold and everything's slow, and I couldn't even get a sugar to work off because sugar usually works off pretty easily if it's warm enough and you use the right yeast and everything. So, but yeah, the starting out that way too, and starting out with something cheap and inexpensive. That way, if you do make mistakes, it's not an expensive mistake that costs you. You definitely don't want to get your feet wet and by running a honey shine or a tequila shine with a bunch of blue agave that you mess up and have a whole lot of money invested into the mash or the wash. But I mean, you could do yeast, corn, and sugar. There's no right and wrong to that. I did cornmeal and sugar for ages, so and it makes okay liquor. I'm okay. It's not the best, but if you're just getting started, I mean, it's fine. Yeah, you could add yeast, corn, and sugar, and just use your hydrometer and add about, probably with a sweet corn, you'd probably want to add about maybe 3/4 of a pound to a pound of sugar per gallon, along with the corn. A couple of pounds of corn per gallon as well. It is sweet, but you're not going to get as much sweet out of the corn as you would a converted um, starch, right? So, but if you do the conversion and use the sweetness of it, then you probably require less sugar and no sugar. You can get by without any. But I would recommend, if it's your first time, it's fine to do sweet corn with a little bit of sugar and water. That's perfectly fine. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find you a recipe. I can't copy and paste on here. It's one of the biggest issues that I have. But I can post it in the group. And if you're in one of the groups, we can get that to you pretty quickly and easily. Okay, now here's some frozen sweet corn and then sweet corn, fresh sweet corn. So I got several different ones that I can share. I'm not going to do it right in this instant because I've got too many questions to answer. But Paul, be sure to join DIY Shine and Steel Building. I'll repeat it: DIY Shine and Steel Building in Facebook or the Moonshine Militia, and tell them Santa sent you. Tell them you're from the podcast, and we'll just post those in the files. So when you join the group, if you're not in the group, just right there at the very top, you go to the page. It'll say posts, about, mentions, reviews, reels, posts, more. Wait. Let me go to the militia page. Oop, that's already there. Boom, bam. Okay, at the top it'll say discussion, featured members, events, media, and files. Where it says files, just click on that, and then you'll see the little box where you can type a question in, and you can just post sweet corn, and then hit search, and it'll find these recipes because they have sweet corn in the title. Now I'm trying to do that with all my files, name them a little bit more where they can be easily searched. Unfortunately, a lot of the files are in PDF, and it's like P974993247.pdf, and it is very indescript, so it's kind of hard to search for a topic if that's the title. So I'm trying to go through all my files and change at least the name of the file to something that can be searched and and found. So, but yeah, I've got several that I can share with you, and it's pretty much the same process. It's you know. Let me look at one of them here. Frozen corn is going to be a little bit different. Let me see. I'm not even sure how well how good these are. Yeah, this is just corn and sugar. Let's see what this other one is here. Yeah, this other one's the same thing, just copied. Yeah, you get a lot of that too. That's the same exact file, but somebody copied it a little bit differently. Um, wow, this one. Listen to this. This is crazy. I won't give this recipe out, but 5 pounds of frozen sweet corn, cook in 3 gallons of water for 90 minutes. Add 12 pounds of okay. Add another 3 gallons of water. I was going to say 12 pounds of sugar for 3 gallons, but still that's 2 pounds with the sweet corn, which is going to be too much. Damn, I'm glad I saw that extra 3 gallons. I was gonna be like, are they crazy? There's no way. 4 pounds but yeah, maybe a pound of sugar, uh, per gallon, and about 2.5 pounds of sweet corn per gallon. Uh, cook your corn first and gelatinize it, and then you can add some of the amylase as you normally would. Um, that way you break whatever starches down that you can, and then with your high temp. But you don't need near as much because it's not as starchy as it is sweet. So that's they kind of bred. Um, all corn is GMO for let's just start out with that. It's been genetically modified, but not laboratory modified, right? It's been selectively bred for centuries. It started out as a grass. You've seen those little mini corns that they serve and stuff. Uh, Used to corn was even smaller than that. It was like the little cattail things. Not a cattail like in the water, but I don't know what they call them. But anyway, it was a very small grass seed, and they selectively bred it to where it's like the little miniature corn, and then centuries later it became a huge ear of corn. Some of them, I mean, there's some ears of corn that are like 2 feet long, right? They're crazy. Um, but the starchy corn was selectively bred for animals and for grains to be, made into like a cornbread. So with like cows as feed for cows, they got those multi-chamber stomachs where they can break down. They've got enzymes in their stomach just like we do. And it breaks those starches down and feeds their bodies with the sugars that they need to help, give the energy and grow. So, um, it's been selectively bred to contain a high starch content, which is good also for the bread making and all this, versus a sweet corn, which is probably much better table fare, right? It's much better to eat that way. And my biggest drawback is the expense, right? It's a lot more expensive mash, and it's going to be different. I won't say better because better is subjective, but will it be worth the additional cost? That's an opinion, right? But yeah. All right, let me get caught up with chat here. Oh, you're growing some sweet corn? Cool, cool. Well, grow some pure corn too. But no, best thing to do is eat that sweet corn, put it up and freeze it, eat it, and use it in the infusions. And then some of your shine if you get good crop. But I'd much rather eat it and then save the cheap corn. Make you liquor with that cheap corn because it comes out real well. Awesome, man. That sounds good, brother. Macintosh Peach White Lightning. That sounds pretty damn good. That's right. You know, it's being able to distill is not only good, for bartering, in a post-apocalyptic world, but it's also a medicinal thing. It's used to extract a lot of tinctures and create a lot of medicines, right? It's used to clean wounds. It's used to fuel vehicles. It's used to start fires. There's a lots of good, disinfectant. There's lots of good uses for it. So, it's more than just an recreational beverage. So being able to distill, in even just in not necessarily post-apocalyptic or anything like that, but in hard times, and in bad situations and survival situations, it's definitely a really good skill to have. What's going on, Scott? Good to see you, brother. Can't get to heaven unless you raise a little hell, right? Hey, we all sin, it's just pick your sin. My sin doesn't hurt anybody but myself. Watermelon shine, man. I tell you, that's tough. It's a tough one now. It's I made some, and I have to say it's a really tough one to make. The wine sucked, and the brandy was worse. So it's a challenging distillation. That's a challenge. Probably one of the most challenging ones I've done. Most of them are come out good. Just naturally good. I will say, might want to do it at a cooler time or do it in a cooler place with a cooler temp loving yeast. I didn't use a wine yeast per se. I used more of a distilling type yeast, and I did it when it was hot. It was 80 plus degrees, so it was a pretty warm. Actually, it's probably 85 when I did that. So it got pretty warm, and that may have been part of the problem. I also had to kind of let it do it by my schedule. I couldn't do it when it was ready, so it went a little longer maybe, and that may have been an impact on it as well. So I think a lower temperature and running it right when it's ready instead of waiting until you have time. You gotta pretty much go by it. But it turned out it wasn't good. I've got a bunch of it. I got to rerun it off. But I had a bunch of watermelon, spent a lot of money on it, and I experimented. I did 3 different types. I will say that the dark green round ones, the seedless, probably the best way to go. They're the sweetest, and probably of all the 3 different varieties that I tried, made the best wine. If you want to say best, I wouldn't use that. Probably shouldn't use that adjective. Probably the least worst of the 3. Uh, but yeah, it's a lot of expense, and it's a tough one. I definitely would tackle peaches or apples first if you knew. If not, give her a shot. Or if you have a lot of watermelon on hand, it's better than just throwing them out, right? At least throw some yeast on it and give it a chance. But there are some things that you can do that I just didn't have time to do that I talked about, and we all talk about how you make maple syrup. It's very watery, hardly any flavor at all. It's very just almost like drinking water with just a little bit of sweetness. And how you cook that down and cook it down and concentrate it. Maybe if you could do the same to a watermelon juice, and kind of concentrate that, then ferment it, might come out a little better. Be interesting. You're on the main scroll. You can see yourself on the screen here. What happens is, GW, depending on what YouTube page you're on, you'll see the YouTube comments from that page, but not all. That's why I post this on the screen here, so everybody can see comments from different platforms. Because there's Facebook on here. There's 2 Facebook channels and 2 YouTube channels. We could do it more. I don't fool with Kick and Rumble and all that anymore. I used to, And all we ended up getting in here was just a bunch of trolls trying to, sell us viewers and all that stuff. And I'm not into that. So, um, but yeah, if you want to follow what everybody's saying, you kind of have to keep up on the screen. We're going to try to get them to increase the size of that on the screen. It's hell, it's interesting that I can select that like that. I wasn't aware where I could do that, but let me see if I got some tools here. More actions. More tools. No. Damn. Yeah, I'm going to try to figure out how I can increase the size of this. I've asked them out after every podcast. I finally got this added. I don't know if other people are asking it too, but I want that chat to take up half this screen, right? So everybody can see the questions from other formats. So sorry, but it's nothing that we're doing on our end. It's just the way this software is working, and we're going to try to get them to fix it. But that's maybe not be so dang on easy. I don't know. Now I'm trying to find the comment that I highlighted so I can unhighlight it. What the heck? What's EW for you at, brother? What have I done here? Well, yeah, there it is. Okay. Couldn't find it unselected. Yeah. I saw that question asked, and yeah, a ball valve is the easiest thing. It's just a simple valve. That's all you need. Just open it up, let the air equalize from the inside outside. It doesn't have, I'm not going to trust a 2,000 gallon or a $2,000 copper steel to a $7 part that's made in China. The vacuum release. No. No, I'm not going to do it. I've seen, if it fails, how are you going to recoup that? It's as simple as open it up. Now, it would be a good idea to have that as well. That way, if you forget to open up that valve, you'll have, that backing you up in case you need it. But that'll be, kind of an insurance thing, a backup. Yeah, and you can pipe it any way you want to. It's just going to blow out a little steam. So just, a lot of times it's on the cape at the top, and you open it up and it's going to blow it up in an angle. But make sure you have your flame, your heat source turned off when you do that. You're going to be doing it at the end of the run, so you're going to turn your heat off, and then after you turn your heat off and just open up the valve and blow off some steam. Yes, that steam's going to have a little alcohol in it, but unless you're in a very small room, or it's not going to create any issues, especially if you have your heat source turned off. But awesome. Yeah, sugar cane works well. Yeah, I'd much rather run sugar cane than watermelon, but maybe a little bit of both would be good too. Absolutely. It sure is. That's good. You found the place. All right. So on Facebook, uh, just do a search. If you're on Facebook, do a search for DIY Shine and Steel Building, and send us an invite, and I'll post that link in there. But it's basically a simple recipe. It's just 2 gallons or 2 pounds of sweet corn to 1 gallon of water to 1 pound of sugar, and that should get you pretty much in the ballpark. It's going to be a fairly low gravity, probably 1050 or something, but it should get you some pretty good, smooth corn flavored liquor. What's going on, Jason? Ran his first run. Awesome. Turned out great. That's what we like to hear, brother. Have a column still with an infusion basket. Good, good. What's the best way to infuse with a column without heads taking a lot of infusion flavor? Hey, you're talking to the man that invented the bypass just to avoid that. So, um, what you can do is you can build a bypass, and it's basically when you're coming out of your column, you can or you can do a diversion. You can do it either way. So you can go up your column into a T, and you can put a valve on each end of the T. And on one end of the T, you can run a condenser straight out. Just straight out to a condenser, shotgun condenser, something cheap, and you can use that for stripping. You can use it for just taking off the heads and the four shots. And then once you're done with the heads and four shots, you can close that valve, open up the other side, and run it in through your thumper or your infusion basket, right? That would be one of the easiest ways to do it. But I did do the bypass originally, and it's basically coming off, and it goes down into your thumper where you have a valve, and then you've got a T that goes into an arm that also has a valve into a condenser also, and you can bypass it to go through the thumper, or bypass it to go straight through into the condenser. So that's probably going to be a little bit more difficult. It's going to require 3 valves instead of 2, or a 3-way and 1 2-way valve. Or you could just do the T if you have 2 different condensers, which probably be, maybe have a worm on one side and then just your shotgun on the stripping side. And that works real well. So you just come up out of the column into a T with 2 butterfly valves, open one up, have that going into like a shotgun condenser. And then once you strip everything, you can strip and mix it, proof it down, empty your still, dump it in there again, shut the other side, open the other one up, and run it that way. And you can put a valve on the top of your still, like we're talking about, to let off the vape, so you don't get a vapor lock. And you can also use that valve when it's not under pressure. After you let it cool for just a little bit and let off the pressure, you can also put a funnel up there and refill it up and not have to take everything down again, just so you take the pot and fill it up. Or you can put a ferrule there with another, butterfly valve and just pour it in that way. But having a 3/4 inch or an inch ball valve in the top would be nice to just pour everything back in. That's what I do, and then start her back up and open up the other side of the T and run it out that way. If that makes sense to you. If not, I can draw it out, but it's pretty basic. It's just a diverter. You can go one direction or the other, but it does require 2 condensers. And if you don't want to use the bypass, but that's the easiest way to do it, really. Or you can just, when you're thumper, you can have a drain in the bottom, and after you get done with your 4 shots and heads, drain everything off, right? And then close it off, and then have an infusion port on the top where you can start infusing some different juices or concentrates or whatever you want to put in there that you want to infuse with. Yeah, corn's a lot cheaper than table sugar. That's why when they make fuel, they use corn instead of sugar. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the biggest things, is that tax revenue. Let's see how far behind I am. Not 20 minutes. All right. Yeah, fruits are a little tougher like that. The citrus types fruits are a little tougher, a little more acidic, so you have to watch pH and a little more care in pH, but they work fine. Sugar-wise, you're going to have a little less sugars. You'd be surprised. Like a strawberry, a lot of people think a strawberry has a whole lot of sugar in it. It does not, but we've got some charts that can help you. And let me put one of them up here so y'all can see. Here we go. And let me take that chat off so you can see. Let me take this off. So here, now this is general. So we definitely know that there's going to be some, for example, apples that have more or less than 13.3. You know, Granny Smith sour apple, green apple sour is not going to have 13.3 grams of sugar. But a Fuji apple might, right? Or a Macintosh or something sweet might. So some of these are going to vary based on ripeness as well and variety. But this is just a general idea of about how much you can expect out of each fruit. You can see grapefruit 6.2, better than a strawberry. That's what I was going to say. Most people say, oh, no way a grapefruit's sweeter than a strawberry. It is. Pound for pound, much. Well, not a whole lot, but more. But let's see, where's oranges on the list? Look, 9.2 up there for oranges. So oranges, definitely plenty of sugar. Much more than plums, and I do plum wine a lot. So, and that's why we have our hydrometer. So if you can't just use pure fruit and the juice straight from the fruit, which is extremely expensive, unless getting it free or have it growing on your property or have access to it. It's very, very expensive just to get a fruit juice from squeezed to ferment. Very good. It's probably definitely the best way to go. It makes excellent wines and brandies, but it's very expensive. So we try to supplement a lot of that juice with water and sugar, right, and kind of help. And frozen concentrates help a lot too. So if you can get some of those frozen concentrates that are preservative free or low preservatives, those definitely help out a lot. But we have that chart on the Militia and in the DIY Shine is still building page 2. So, but it's a good chart to have on hand because you would be surprised. But we use our hydrometer, right? So regardless, we make our own recipes. So you don't need a recipe book to make these things. You just how much corn you want to use. I would not use any more than 2.5 pounds of grain. It gets pretty thick, and you need to start. If you do, there's certain enzymes that you're going to have to use that'll help break down some of the glucans. If you use a lot of adjunct grains like rye and barley and wheat that tend to get gummy, and oats, so you want to start adding some other things with it, but. It's pretty easy to use your hydrometer and know just how much sugar you need to add. And to make sugar, you just take a lot of sugar with a little bit of water, like a couple of gallons of water and 5 pounds of sugar or 4 pounds of sugar, and make a syrup out of it. And that way you can just add the syrup, stir it in, check your gravity. Add a little bit more concentrated syrup, and stir it up and check your gravity. And that way you don't water it down, right? That way you're not adding too much water. You're adding mostly sugars, and you want to just get your gravity up. Yeah. When you do the molasses, you're going to run into a lot of unfermentables, and that's why you want to use a gluco. Add some glucoamylase to that. It'll help. It'll help finish it off. Banana rum, it's good, man. I like what I've done it quite a few times. I like brown sugar with mine. It does well with brown sugar. But you know about the cap. You know what you're dealing with. But for those that don't, definitely when you do banana, leave yourself plenty of headspace for that cap to form because it gets massive. Hey, it's for everything, man. It's there was a lot of people that during COVID switched over and started making hand sanitizer. It's whatever needs fit the bill. So I remember I don't remember, but back in the war, World War II, that people used to save their fats and stuff, and they'd save a lot of stuff and set it out, and they would use that to help the war machine. I don't know if it probably made some napalm and other things out of that oil and diesel and everything else. Yeah. For all the winemakers, I mean, if you can make a good wine, you definitely going to be, ahead of the curve on making brandy. Same with beer makers. If you're used to making beer and you're good at fermenting beer and skilled at that, then stepping into the distilling world is going to be pretty much a cakewalk, right? So because you're familiar with step mashing, you understand the enzymes, you understand how that all works. Same with fruit. If you're making a winemaker, you know how to do a fermentation. You know the sanitary, both, because with beer making and wine making, you're drinking the mash. You're not. This isn't something that you can just kind of piddle fart around with and get a little bacteria. It's no big deal. It's not a big deal because we're going to distill it, right? It's going to be boiling alcohol and everything gets killed off, and we don't have to worry about it. Which a lot of people get a little lax in just distilling. When they're making just like a mash grain, they're not making a beer or not making a wine. But when you learn the disciplines of beer making and wine making, and it will definitely help you become, a really good distiller. And if you can make good wine, you can easily distill it into good brandy. And if you can make a good beer, less the hops, you can make a pretty good whiskey too. Because distilling is not that difficult, it's just a few things that a few safety things, that you got to be aware of, and watch your drip, adjust your flow, adjust your temperature to your flow, to your steel and type, learning how to load your plates on a column. That's pretty much the end of distillation, that you got to learn what type of steel to use, and but the discipline of wine and beer making is really tantamount into making a good distillate. That's awesome. That's a good problem to have, brother. Yeah, just go to Facebook, and hopefully you're on Facebook. If not, just join Facebook. And once you're in there, just let me post the name of the group here so you can see. And remind me when it's about 9:15 so I can share the rest of these posts out there. Copy. Here's the name of the group, and I'll post a link to the group. And there's a link to the group. So just join that, Paul, and once you get in there, just say, "Hey, this is Paul from the podcast." Looking for that. There's also, if you look inside there is a good recipe book from Stampede Steels that they used to hand out with their steels when they sold them. And it's got quite a few decent recipes in there, and there's quite a bit in there, and I need to add more. But again, I have to open them up and change the names so you can reference them and search them. But that should get you a good start. And ask all your questions in there as well. We're here on Tuesdays and Saturdays, but in there you can ask your questions anytime, 24/7. Don't expect an immediate answer, or well, you don't even get an immediate answer here, maybe 20, 30 minutes later, but don't expect immediate, but yeah, somebody help you. Yeah, a lot of my bad wines, they definitely make brandy. That's usually what gets thrown in the pot, because if it's really, really good as a wine, I'll just leave it as a wine, because I don't want to lose a lot of that. You lose a lot of flavor when you distill, right? That's the whole distillation process, is removing, pollutants and impurities, and we know flavor and impurity is one we want to keep. That's why we try to defeat the purpose of the distillation by the way we do it, but at the same time, it still takes out a lot, right? Brandy question. Yeah, a lot of times a white mold will be what's called a calm. Let me just check my spelling. I think it's spelled Kahmn. Let me Google that and make sure I'm spelling it right. No, it's just KAHM yeast, calm yeast. A lot of times that's what you'll see. If it's not a lactobacillus, it's going to be a calm yeast. Um, uh, just Google that and read about it. It's KAHM, calm yeast. It's a wild yeast, and um, most of your stuff, if it doesn't have color, if it's not furry, it's usually like a mold or a yeast that's not going to be an issue. We know that the yeast itself is a fungus, lactobacillus. There's lots of different bacterias and molds, uh, but it's not going to hurt you. But it's hard to identify at the same time. So just because I can't identify it without seeing it, and most of the times when I see it, I still can't identify it. So, but I would say 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to be a calm yeast, a wild yeast that's doing that, or a lacto. But there's guides. You can post a pic and we can look at it. But most of the times, most of your bad stuff is going to have a color or get real fuzzy and furry. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you very much. Or sister, Francis. It's one of those names. Appreciate you joining us. If you got any questions, jump in there and ask. But thanks for joining us. Yeah, it's probably a lacto or a calm. Been drinking for a little bit. All right, all right. Well, thanks for joining us, GW. Hope you're still with us. I know you said that like 20 minutes ago. So hopefully you're still with us. If not, thanks for joining us, and we'll be back Tuesday. Hopefully you'll be able to stay around a little longer, man. But I think I need to have a little sippy sip too. It's Saturday night. Thank you. So last week, I drank a lot of Derek's 3-grain, red, white, and blue. I think this week I'm going to drink some of Swiss stocks. This is also really good. This is like a 6th-grain, man. This is awesome. Real good. Real good grain liquor. It's a sweet, good, man. It's awesome. Tell you what, Joe and Derek certainly made some really good shine. And they both put this in a... Let's keep this up here where it's close. But they both put that in a barrel up there at Wes's, and that's going to be some really, really good stuff because both of them have very good flavor, good initial sweetness, good mid flavor, and the follow is really good on the tongue. So both of them, excellent, man. I mean, Joe and Derek both is top notch distillers, man. They're both seasoned, know what they're doing. It's good stuff, real good stuff. If it's powdery, it's probably calm. It's that calm yeast. Google calm, KAHM, and look at the pictures and just hit Google and type in calm yeast, and then look at some of the pictures. At the top you can select all AI pictures, articles, all that. Yeah, do that and just look at the pictures. That's the best way. You can send me a picture of it, and that's basically what I'd be doing too, is just comparing it to other pictures. And so I'd say it's a calm yeast. Yeah. Make a little caramel corn sugar. Yeah. You're welcome, brother. Yeah, just heat up some water and dissolve your sugar in it. You know, make sure it gets dissolved in real well. There's JJ. What's going on, brother? Corn and potatoes didn't work well together. Then your wife. It's funny. Yeah, protein and corn. I don't know. I've heard of worse combos. People have asked me some of the craziest stuff. I mean, it's who knows though. You put two odd things together, and sometimes it works. And again, when it comes to flavor, it's subjective, right? And I'm not going to say somebody's wrong because they might like it, and other people may say, "Well, I like the taste of that." So when it comes to flavor, it's pretty much an opinion thing. So you know, so there's no facts when it comes to that. Yeah, I put you a link in there, brother. If it's not Hyman's, man, is that spelled with an I or a Y? Either way, yep. Yeah, I know what you're saying, JJ. Corn and potatoes, yeah, with a little meat, make a little stew shine. But yeah, a little protein and corn. I mean, I can definitely think of worse combos. I've heard some pretty strange combinations out there, but it didn't turn out well. But sometimes it's not necessarily the ingredients. Sometimes it's stressing the yeast and not getting the environment right. And having a little bit warm or a little bit cold or high acid or something that causes the yeast to stress. So sometimes it can be more things than just the ingredients that's the cause. What's going on, Mike? How you doing, brother? Good to see you. No, it was a day off for Santa. Yeah, last Saturday I went to Wes's for a birthday party. Yeah, hung out with a bunch up there and had a good time and took the day off. I appreciate the concern, brother. Yeah, I was feeling pretty good Saturday night. You said that's for sure. Everybody there, I think I got drunk twice. I think I got drunk, slowed down, sobered up a little bit, and felt good and started getting drunk again. But we partied till about 5 in the morning. Wes can hang, man. He's like me. He can drink all day and night. That's right. You got to test drive him a while first, man. You got that's why you should be able to when you buy a car or something new, you ought to be able to take it for a month and just check it out, see if it's what you want. Yeah, watermelon wine's tough. It's tough. What's going on, Herbie? Good to see you, brother. I'm still gonna call you James. Good to see you, man. I'm trying to think of it. Wasn't there an artist named James Gray? Let me see. Every time I see your name, I think, yeah, James Gray is an artist. I knew it. Yeah, I knew that. He does a lot with kind of a lot of colors. I knew that. Yeah, you get the same name as a pretty famous artist. What corn should you grow? Yellow dent number 2. If other than sweet corn, of course, grows. I actually, this is what I recommend. Grow sweet corn for your freezer and for your tableware, and buy yellow dent corn from Tractor Supply or from a farmer, because it's so cheap that it's hard to farm and make money doing it, right? I'm literally telling you, they will fill you a 55-gallon barrel full of hundreds of pounds of corn for next to nothing. I mean, they got it coming after years. They got hundreds of thousands of acres, thousands, not hundreds, well, I mean, some might, but hundreds or thousands of acres of corn and field corn, which grows quite readily and well and quite prolific, and they get pretty good yield. And it's very, very cheap. 50 pounds for $8 to $12, depending on where you're shopping. It's hard to grow, unless you're all kitted up and you got your harvesters and you got your planters and everything, and you're set up for it, and you got hundreds of acres. Absolutely go for it, But I would say grow sweet corn for your table fare and for freezing and for pickling and putting up, and just buy yellow dent, because it's so cheap. It's I don't know if it's cost effective to try to grow it. Now, if you do grow corn, I would grow an heirloom corn, because that's expensive, and I wouldn't grow a yellow dent. I'd grow some Ohio blue, Oaxacan green, something unique and different. That'll Ohio blue seems to be a really good corn. Everybody seems to like. I can't think of many people that said they don't like it, like a Bloody Butcher. I've heard a lot of people, "Ooh, it's oily. I don't like it so much. It's okay." But I've never heard anybody say anything bad about an Ohio Blue. So maybe that'd be something good to grow. Pretty sweet, makes good liquor. It's great mixed with other corn. So that's good stuff. Joe did a good job on this. I don't know what the proof is, but that's pretty damn good. Him and Derek both. Yeah, I'll be drinking Wes's next week. It's 140 proof, but it's smooth as hell for 140 proof. But man, it'll eat up all the bacteria in your mouth. I get thrush every time I drink high proof like that. But yeah, I would say I would grow some kind of heirloom corn, for sure. And because buying whole kernel yellow dent's very, very inexpensive. If you know a farmer, I mean, we can get it at Tractor Supply in a 50-pound bag for about $11, $12. You can go to Buc-ee's, I think, and it's like, for a 50-pound bag, it's like $8 or $9, $8.50, something like that. From a farmer, it's going to be $3 or $4. And if you bring the container for them to just dump it into, they'll lay it on you cheap, man. Probably $3 or $4, for a 50 pounds. Pennies on the pound. So that's that's the closest as you can get to free, really. I mean, it's very, very cheap. And that with just the amylase and an inexpensive yeast, it's pretty much as cheap a liquor as you can make. It's so cheap, it's cheaper than sugar. Like Clint and I were talking about earlier, it's cheaper than sugar. That's why they use it for the fuel, right? That's why they grow corn to make that. They use starchy corn to make the fuel. They don't use a sweet corn. So, but if you're going to grow corn just to make liquor with and not worried about table fare, I'd go with a Ohio Blue or something unique. You mean they're not? Yeah, I'd say it was, man. No, it didn't smell right. Neither did the wine I made, man. It wasn't good. Yeah, and a good point is in different areas too. Certain types of corn may do better than others. Oh, then it should grow real well. What's going on, Elvin? Oh, this is a 6 grain. 6 grain, and I can't remember what all it's. It's got to be corn, maybe 2 different kinds of corn, and it's good. Good stuff. I can't decide which I like more between that and Derek's. They're both really good. Both have a unique flavor in the middle there, but excellent. Be very good once they come out of that barrel. I agree. That's about what it's best for sure. Cucumber and corn mash. Interesting. Very interesting. I appreciate you sharing that, man. That's interesting. Interesting. Yeah, be something to try for sure. I do know that, like with the watermelon, they say not to get the rind because it'll taste very melony, and some people say you definitely want to use the rind for that reason. So I guess it's what you're looking for. No, you never pitch it. Never ever pitch it. If worst comes to first, worst, JJ, just add a little bit more water, and you can dilute it back down to where it needs to be. You know, it's no big deal. You never pitch it though, unless it's scorched. I never pitch nothing, or if it has bad bacteria or some kind of colorful mold or mildew or something really bad on it that I do know that's bad. But no, it'll be fine. You could. What happens is that glucose keeps working, and and the sugar, So yeah, just add a little bit more water to it if you want to, thin it down a little bit, and might help take a little stress off the yeast. But make sure you got some nutrients in there for it, and watch your pH. Use Daily, you'll be fine. Yeah, and have a coating on it, or make sure you use gloves. Or yeah, or have a little pipe coming out of it. Just don't have it right there next to your hand where the valve opens up. Maybe hit my damn microphone. Maybe have a little small section of pipe that'll plummet away from your fingers. Good point, brother. Yeah, I definitely have to give that a try sometime, man. It'd be interesting. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's better to ask than not ask and have some sort of accident or something. But it's not your process; it's just the equipment. So we all have equipment failures. That's why a lot of times we do these cleaning runs. A lot of times a cleaning run serves more than one purpose. It's not only cleaning; it's also checking your steel for leaks, right? So even just running water, distilling water through it and building up some pressure and running water through a thumper, build up that pressure and test everything, First time, probably a good idea. That's why I preach, run water through it, run some sugar wash through it, and kind of check everything, clean everything off the same time, and make sure everything's working out before you actually start running some expensive mashes. Exactly, Patty. Yeah, just add a little water to it, bring it back down to earth, and that won't be as stressful on your yeast. A lot of times, uh, a lot of times you'll take it. It won't be concentrated. You'll take a lot of it out, and you'll probably be distilling water and leaving vinegar behind, or distilling vinegar and leaving water behind. I've never really anything that's tasted very vinegary. I've never run it. Now he had a pressure leak and burned his leg. He wanted to open the top to let it off gas a little bit. And when he did, it spewed out on him. It's funny. When you get old, that 90 is about a 45 or 50. It ain't no 90. You're terrible, Clint. All right, brother. Hey, good luck with dinner, bro. Hey, we're here for Tuesday and Saturday, man. We'll see you. We'll see you on Tuesday. You have a good evening. Yeah, Mike, I've never run anything that got vinegar. I had some wine, but it was just one bottle, that definitely got vinegary, and I dumped it. I'm thinking I had a mash once, but it's a 5 gallon. Excuse me, that got vinegary, and I think I dumped it too. I didn't. I don't. I don't think. I know that you can't take a vinegary wine and something that's turned to vinegar, a mash or a must that's turned to vinegar. I know that you can't run that and get that out, and I'm sure you could probably separate the alcohol from it with some sort of specialized equipment or a fractional distillation. But just like on a pot still, it'd be pretty tough. Yeah, most of my vinegars though have just been individual jars of wine that sat out basically, or got neglected and sat out and forgotten, and it's like, oh shit. Calcium acetate. Interesting. You got me googling. I gotta see what we're talking about here. Prescription. That's a medicine. High blood pressure. Calcium acetate. Yeah, that's a medicine. I never heard of it. Hyperphosphate. Hyperphosphatemia. Patients with end-stage renal disease are chronic kidney disease on dialysis. This is a phosphate binder taken with meals to prevent dietary phosphorus absorption. Interesting. Yeah, go back and watch some of our prior episodes too. At whatever site you're on, you can scroll back and shows on the videos, and you can go back and watch a lot of our prior episodes. We go over a lot of the how-tos. A lot of people ask the same questions, sometimes the same question at different times. You know, they'll log on late and ask the same question, something somebody did, you know, an hour earlier. I mean, it's just fine, which brought me to time. And let me go back and share some of these so I can spread love. Let's see here. All right. Daggone it. Let me do something here. Let's see. All right, bear with me just a second here. We'll be quiet. So, well, I'll try not to be too quiet so I can. Got to share these out there. 56. Hopefully they'll let me. They better. It's been over an hour. Yeah, I wish they would let me do all of them. Last week, I don't understand. So Tuesday, I was able to do them all at one time. And this time, I can do half at a time. I don't understand. You would think with the digital, it would be one way or the other, set in stone. This is exactly how many times you can do it. You know, pretty weird. But let me get these out there, and then we can get back to what we're talking about. I'm almost getting caught up. We'll get there. And for those that see me bouncing my head, I've got hyperactive leg syndrome. So a lot of times I'm bouncing my leg like I'm playing a drum, right? So don't worry. I haven't had a stroke, and I'm not stroking out. I'm all right. Like, Clint got a little worried about me one time. He noticed my head bobbing like that, shaking. It's just me bouncing my leg, man. I've always done that, man. It drove my mom crazy. We'd be sitting in church at the pew, and I'd be bouncing my leg during church, and you look down the aisle, man, everybody sitting on that same pew's heads would be bouncing just like mine. And my mom would reach over and smack my knee and put her hand down on my knee and smack it. Yeah. And that worked till I forgot about it, and then I'd start bouncing again. It's just a habit. I don't know. I've always been kind of hyper. Imagine that, huh? All right, we got them all shared out there now. Good. I've seen some funny posts this week, man. That's funny as shit what Mark posted. What's going on, Isaac? I'm sorry a little bit late, brother, but glad you joined us. It's possible. It's possible. Yeah, exactly. All the sugar might not have been dissolved, and bread yeast. Bread yeast is usually good to about 12 or 14%. Probably going to be stretching it with that. Might stress it with that JJ, so I'd put a little bit of water in there with it. Yeah, I'd say it's probably 1.12 instead of 1.2 is it's thick syrupy, right? It'd be pretty thick. So it probably 1.12. Yeah, it's about 12 to 14. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, phosphorus makes excellent stuff. I've used it for many years. Yeah, it'll be all right. Yeah, I would add a little bit of water. It's not too late. You can add just a little bit of water to it and take it down a little bit. Yeah, they didn't have a real high gravity back in the day. Drink a lot more water than pop. I guess you probably noticed. I'm trying to drink less pop and a little bit more water. I've been drinking a lot of Mountain Dews and stuff, and probably not good for my old kidneys and livers. I need to take it easy on my liver. They prepare it for the good stuff. Tractor pull and lawnmower racing, right? Yeah, just check and make sure your temperature is good, and I'd add a little bit of water for sure. You know, that's a little bit high, but not necessary. Just to keep from stressing the yeast, I'd add just a touch, probably some touch of water to it, and that'll help raise your pH a little bit too if there's an issue. Yeah, the stainless. What do you got? Like a corrugated flexible stainless. Now with the molasses, it's also going to have some unfermentables. So add just some glucose to that. Oh, all right. Yeah, that's a mistake you don't forget when you learn the hard way. Now that's yeah, yeah. It's very common. Common, common. That's funny. Yeah, I agree. And I try to do safety every night. Because I'm always thinking about that's one of the most important things we can teach people is a lot of people come into this with a lot of fears and a lot of respect. And some people don't. Some people don't really think about it that way. They're like, let's just run a liquor. It'll be all right. It'll be cool. But you got to think about, really you got to be careful. It's not like boiling gasoline or nothing, but it is a flammable liquid, and there are some inherent dangers in it, especially once you start dealing with, thumpers and a little bit more pressure and you know, stills that are dependent on just a little rubber gasket, right? Um, so everything's not locked down, like some stills are. So there's definitely some risks involved. You got propane. Some people using it inside, and have leaks in their stills, and they don't even know it, and they're leaking all kinds of alcohol vapors in the same room, small room with an open flame. It's just a recipe for disaster. So you gotta be thinking. And another thing, you don't want to be drinking a lot. I know the temptation's there. It's dripping off there, man. It's 140 proof, tasting good, and I gotta make my cuts right, and sitting there sampling. That 140 get to you pretty quick. That's bad sounding. I'm only bad 11 months and 29 days out of the year. That one day I'm good. That's right. That's right. That'll work. That'll be perfect. 3-inch copper pipe, man. Where'd you get that? That's nice. Yeah, that'd make me a. You could probably make a pretty good little shotgun condenser out of that. Yeah, Jimmy Reddy is a lot better than Bloody Butcher. Well, some people, most people say. Yeah, I love me some grits. Grits and cheese, a little salt, all day, man. I think the mash bill. I think it's got a couple of corns. It's got wheat. It's got oats. It's got barley. I think a couple of corns as well. I'm not maybe a couple of different barleys. Joe's, he's does quite a bit of multi-grain stuff, and he's done a lot of distilling. He's very very good at it. And the others were red, white, and blue. Basically, a red corn with a white and a blue corn. So. But they're both really good. Both damn good. Kind of hard to compare them. I hate comparing them. Make sure I get the jars lids mixed up. Similar nose. Definitely the multigrain has a different. Man, they're both so good and unique and different, but similar in the fact that they're an all grain. But I can't say which one I like best. They're both so good. I couldn't say. They're both really good. And I can't wait to taste those come out of a barrel because they're really good going into the barrel. You can take some mediocre white dog and put in a barrel and make it okay. But this is top notch stuff. So it coming out of the barrel, it'll be something else. Definitely look forward to it. Yeah, but the proof on those are probably close to 110, 100. But Wes is 140. Man, it'll light you up. What's going on, Simo? Yeah, I love me some grits though. Cheesy grits, man, they're awesome. You did put a lot of rind in it. That's good. What's going on, Keith? Good to see you, brother. How's it going, man? The vinegar will be. Interesting. Yeah, I googled. I didn't know what calcium acetate was. I've dealt with several different acetates as far as in a distillate, ethyl acetates and things, but I've never heard of calcium acetate. So I wanted to check that out. Meth can do that, huh? I'm a little bit behind you guys. I'm getting caught up though. Getting caught up. I'm just wondering if it's not part of the azeotrope. If it wouldn't be azeotropic. Yeah, bread 12 to 14. Yep, yep. That's a fact. That's right. And maybe some bread yeast, can be trained to go even higher once you keep using it and using it like if you were to continue using it and keep breeding it and propagating it, you can increase its tolerance. That's how they've basically done a lot of the distillers yeast from basic yeast. Yep, that's a fact. Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, there's definitely, a lot of different yeast and that you should be applied to different distillates. A lot of people try to use one yeast for everything. And if you do that, I would say probably EC 1118 might be the best way to go because it's okay with grains, whereas Daddy or whatever is not so great with fruits. So, but a lot of people say if you're just going to buy one, EC 1118, and I tend to agree with that. If you're just going to buy one yeast, that'd probably be the one to buy. But really, if you're doing wine and brandies, you should try to focus on wine and brandy yeast. And EC 1118 is a champagne yeast, so it'd work perfectly fine for that. Not the best. That's what they say about EC 1118. It's not the best at anything, but it's good and good at everything. So not the best at anything, but you definitely should tailor the yeast to the distillate. There's a reason that they um, formulate these yeasts to work with different fruits and grains. Um, So kind of best to stick with it unless you want to just get outside the box and create something unique and different, which is cool too. But when you're just getting started out, I would stick with, Dady or Fleischmann's uh, for your grains, and then maybe an EC 1118, or venture out into some, you know, Red Star Premier Rouge, Premier Blanc. A lot of Red Star makes some pretty good yeast for wines, and Lalvin makes some good ones for wines. That's who makes the EC 1118. Um, but I'd say a good bread yeast or a Dady yeast for your grains works fine, and for especially for beginners, great place to start. But eventually, you want to maybe work towards a Kveki yeast. It's a yeast that I've never heard anybody say anything bad about for grains. Yep, that's right. And if you do, a lot of times they'll just put it in their mouth, swish it, and then spit it out, and then follow it up and cleanse their palate. Uh, Definitely don't want to sit there and get hammered, because I'm telling you, man, it's easy to do, and I can't say that I've never done that more than once or twice or 10 times. But it's a good way to let things get out of hand. It's definitely a recipe for disaster, sitting there getting drunk while you're running. You definitely don't want to do it. You got to keep your wits. What's going on, Lance Shane? It's a good question. I guess just mass production. One thing about Beaver is Beaver don't technically make hardly anything. They buy stuff and I guess pay other corporations and businesses to make different products for them, and they just put their name on it. It's a huge Chinese company, and I don't think they actually manufacture anything. There's a lot of places in China. I'm just going to put this out there because I'm getting ready to buy one. It's a Bever post hole digger, $114, 52 cc. Comes with a 6-inch auger and a 12-inch auger, 10 or 12-inch auger with extensions. How can you beat that for less than the price you could rent one for a weekend, right? To put in a fence. So I was thinking about renting one at Home Depot, and then I saw, well, hell, I could just buy a damn beaver and have it for the rest of my life, and who knows, I might be out there using that beaver to stir a mash. Use that auger to stir my mash with. That'd be a funny video, wouldn't it? But yeah, they don't make a lot of the products like in China. There'll be companies that just make post hole diggers, and there'll be 10 different companies that'll buy it and put their name on it, right? So yeah, they don't make a lot of products. They put their name on a lot of products. So, but it's Chinese labor. What it boils down to is they pay pennies on the dollar so they can afford to do these things. When Americans, paying 10, 15 minimum, 10 to 15 minimum wage, and there it's 5 cents. It's a big difference. They work their people like slaves over there, and they eat rice. They starve. They eat rice, and they live very small homes, very tiny places, and very just it's a different culture. And So that's, they can sell these things cheap. That's why, sometimes we got to put tariffs on stuff to compete. I'm not getting political when I say that, because tariffs should be a bipartisan thing. It's what we've done to help keep taxes down since the beginning of our government. But yeah, it's. But another good place to find stuff too is auctions. I saw this auction. I need to find it again so I can share it. But it's closed in 4 days, and there's not a lot of bids in. And I'm seeing a lot of big stainless fermenters and stuff that a lot of our friends that have gone commercial could probably definitely use. So I want to share that link with them and see if there might be some things that they're interested in. Because that's really a good place to find equipment, is through auctions. If you're opening a distillery, don't go out and buy new stuff. There's too many auctions out there. You can get stuff dirt cheap. Well, now you're going to convert those potatoes. You're going to gelatinize them and add starch, or not. If you're not, you might need more sugar. But if you're going to use your amylase, you gelatinize those starches just like you would anything else. And it's not even have potatoes on here at the bottom. Let me see. Erase your comment. Let's see over here. No, it doesn't. Carrots, tomatoes. No, I thought it might have. I thought it might. But yeah, use your amylase just like you would any other starch you're converting. So you can minimize the amount of sugar that you're going to need, and just basically cook your potatoes down. And I will find you a ratio for that. Let's see if we got potatoes on here. I'm not sure. This is just fruits. Never mind. I thought it also had some. Let's see. Really what you want to do is you want to. Well, let me find you a good recipe here. Just a second. But you want to use your hydrometer. So you basically use X amount of potatoes and X amount of gallons of water. Cook it, use your high temp amylase, break down your starches, use your glucose, do that. See what you got, check your gravity, and then add sugar to bring it up to where you need it, right? So if you start out with a pretty low gravity, maybe next time, to add more potatoes, right? But I'm going to see if... Now we got some sweet potato, a lot of potatoes. Here's another potato vodka recipe. Let's just see what this one looks like. A pretty good recipe. Let me see what kind of ratios they use. 7 gallons of water, 25 pounds of potatoes, 5 pounds of crushed malted barley, sugar, and yeast. So there we have about a little bit over a 3 pounds of potatoes to 1 gallon of water. I was thinking it'd be a little higher than that. And that might be whether I was thinking maybe 4 or 5 pounds of potatoes to water ratio. But yeah, that's where you should start. Maybe 4 pounds, just 4 pounds of potatoes per gallon, and see what that gets you. Use your amylase, cook it up, and gelatinize it, right? Let's see. I do have the chart that shows the gelatinization temperatures. Let me pull that up for you real quick. It's the same one you've seen before, though, and it should have on your phone by now. Definitely should keep these on your phone because they definitely come in handy. And I can't believe that. There it is. Same one you've seen a million times. So at the bottom here you see potato, 160 degrees. Cook them at 160 degrees. Actually, you can cook them at a higher temperature to gelatinize them, just like corn. Cook them just like you would corn. And high temp, right? And steep at 190, and then add your high temp amylase at 185, and they're just like you would corn. Except I don't think it takes quite as long to gelatinize as a corn. Probably going to be good in maybe 60 minutes instead of 90, maybe even a little bit less. I think your potatoes gelatinize quicker than a corn will. So 4 pounds per gallon start with. Just experiment. I've not done it in ages, and I followed a recipe then. But I think 4 or 5 sounds about right. I think 3 is a little light. But yeah, 4 or 5 pounds per gallon, and cook them, gelatinize them, add your high temp, add your glucose, and then when you're done with that, check your gravity, right? Give the glucose an overnight to work too. Don't immediately do it. Let the glucose work overnight. And then the next morning, check your gravity before you add yeast and sugar. And then we talked about the syrup, how you melt that, make you a syrup. You can do a simple syrup or just a regular syrup. And then add that syrup until your gravity gets where you want it to be. And then you should be good to go. I still would, I'm not sure I think potatoes probably have an adequate amount of nutrients in it. Let me see again. Oh yeah. If I could just spell and type. Yeah, the keyboard's at an angle over here. My hands are over it. It's hard for me to. Nitro win. Okay. Yeah, nitrogen. And potatoes. So it needs a little bit of supplement. So you could use a little bit of that barley would be awesome. Add your little crushed barley in there would definitely help. Malted, anything malted would definitely help with that. Or, like we talk about, a handful of bran flakes or dead yeast. But it will have some, but you might need to supplement it with a little bit. And again, it's not going to hurt to throw in some malted grains. Probably going to give you some good flavors. So, yeah, I would start with 4 to 5 pounds per gallon, and then and use your hydrometer to figure out how much sugar you add. So never add your sugar until you use your hydrometer and see what kind of conversion you have and where your starting point is. And that, keep it documented. And that way next time, well, let me try a little bit more. Okay, I tried more, that's too damn thick. So I'm just going to have to stick with this and add a little sugar, right? So that's the way we kind of back our way into recipes, just trial and error. And using other recipes, sometimes they've been tried, sometimes they've just been copied from somebody else that may have tried it. So, inverting brown sugar. What's going on, Richard? Good to see you, brother. Inverting brown sugar. That's going to be a toughie, because it's got the molasses in it. So, but yeah, let me get I've got mine written down, and it's in there in a book, and I don't know if it's upstairs or downstairs. But let me pull you up a pretty good. Yes. Basically, what you're doing, you're cooking it at 236 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're cooking off the water. So you're basically boiling off the water to where it's just acid and sugar left to do the conversion. And you have to make sure that none of the crystals get up on the sides of the walls of the pot that you're cooking it in, boiling it in. But you're slowly boiling it off, and you want to do this very slowly over a long period of time. Don't crank the heat up and make it happen really quickly. You don't want to caramelize your sugar. You don't want it getting kind of brown or dark, because then you've just made a complex sugar, right? But let me see what I've got here in my files. I'll see if I've got my inverting sugar. This might be my recipe here. No. This one might be mine though. Yeah, this looks like, yeah, this is something I typed up. I'm thinking I'm just explaining the process here. Talking about the caramelization. 236 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, this is what I wrote. But I don't have the numbers on here. Dang on it. I'm just kind of explaining what it is and what the process does, breaking it down from glucose fructose to just a monosaccharide. Let's see what this one is here. Yeah, here's one. Here's a recipe for it. This might actually be the one that I got my information from. And then again, maybe not. I looked at it. This is one page. Damn it, man. Oh, hell. That's crazy. How in the hell? Maybe this has the rest of it. Why is page 2 blank? This is crazy. Let me find it on Google. I might be able to find the one I got was from a pastry chef. Dissolve 1 kilogram of granulated sugar in 480 grams of water with 1 gram of citric acid, cream to tart. This sounds pretty good. 236 to 240. You really want to stay at 236 if you can stay right on 236. You want a really accurate candy making thermometer that's very accurate. 236 is where you want to kind of stay. If you get above that, you kind of run the risk of caramelizing some of your sugars. 236 is what I've always heard. But you might have to convert kilograms to, pounds. But 1 kilogram granulated sugar and 480 grams of water. Grams. How do you... Grams of water. What? Gallons? No. It has to be grams. Why not liters or milliliters? Why would they use just grams of water? That's stupid. Let's see if I can find something better for you. Let's see what this one is. This one looks pretty good. Yeah, I like the way she explains this too. But let's see if we can get the damn numbers. They're just talking about the process like I was. And they didn't put... Are you kidding me? Okay, this recipe makes about 4 cups. Okay, where's the recipe? And it is sweeter than sugar, yeah. Okay, so... Okay, here we go. 4 cups granulated sugar, 6 Well, how stupid is this? 4 cups of granulated sugar, 6 tablespoons of granulated sugar, 2 cups water, 1.5 cups of cream, or teaspoons of cream to tar. And you can use cream of tartar, or you can use citric acid. I use citric acid because I use it for a lot of stuff. Actually, I think I used acid blend, which contains several different wine-making acids, but works fine. Yeah, metric. Yeah, okay. 1 kilogram granulated sugar, 480 milliliters of water. That sounds more likely than grams. That's silly, that other one. So the other one was right, just use milliliters. You know, ask me Tuesday, Richard. I'll try to find mine and get it for you. It's similar to those, but actually I got it from a pastry chef, so it's very similar to those though. And most recipes call for about the same, but mine's in cups and tablespoons instead of grams and kilograms and grams of water instead of milliliters. That's silly. I don't know why they would even. And some people use a double boiler to make it as well, so it doesn't kind of scorch on you. Yeah, yeah. I'm apologizing. If I knew exactly where that was, I'd go grab it, but I'm not sure if it's in the room right next to me. I don't think it is. I think it's upstairs. Let me go look. Damn it. Yeah, hold on a minute. I'll get it. All right. It was in there in the other room. It wasn't upstairs. Let me go through this shit and find it. All right, right on the front. Invert sugar. 10 pounds of sugar is 22 and a half cups, or 1.406 gallon. 2-to-1 ratio is 11.25 cups of water. So 10 pounds of sugar, 11 and a quarter cups of water, and a quarter teaspoon per pound of sugar. Oh, is how much of the citric acid. So quarter teaspoon per pound of sugar. So for every pound of sugar that you have, you want a quarter teaspoon of the citric acid. So if you're doing 10 pounds, that's 2.5 teaspoons for 10 pounds. Cook to 236.7, boiling off all waters, but not allowing the sugar to brown or caramelize or crystallize up on the wall. So they have these what's called like silicone brushes, and you could use a basting brush as well. But that looks good. That light shining up, reflecting up on me. I need like this movie lighting stuff. Yeah, that looks good. It kind of makes me look like in the movies where they get that lighting coming up. But yeah, that's my recipe. So a quarter teaspoon, to answer your question, a quarter teaspoon of citric acid for every pound of sugar. And for a 10-pound bags, that'll be 2.5 teaspoons for 10 pounds. But anyway, the basting brushes, you get them moist with water, dip them in water, and just kind of, as it boils, it'll kind of go up on the edge of the pot a little bit on each side, and just kind of always keep going around that, knocking it off, and keep all the crystals. So what happens is the sugar gets up on there, and it gets hot. It wants to crystallize once all the water gets kind of cooked off. You don't want that to happen. What's crazy about this is if those crystals will spread. If you allow those crystals up on the side, it will crystallize your whole syrup and you won't be able to store it. If you do it right, you'll be able to store it long term. But if you don't, it'll be like honey. It'll just turn it'll completely crystallize on you. Pretty interesting. But yeah, that's my recipe. So again, 10 pounds of sugar, and that's 22.5 cups. And then for a 2-to-1 ratio, you want 2-to-1 ratio with your sugar to water. So for a 10 pound, which is 22.5 cups, you'll have 11 1/4 cups of water. And I do mine 10 pounds at a time. So I'm glad that was in there, not upstairs. I couldn't remember if it was in there or upstairs with some other stuff. Congratulations. Wedding parties are fun. Awesome, awesome. What's going on, Josh? Yeah, you definitely got to sneak in a little, got to carry your little flask with you. Yeah, buddy, you're just getting on the heads. It's 10 o'clock. Yeah, about 9:40. I'm 20 behind, so let me get caught up here. Yeah, well, I mean, I made some good champagnes with that EC 1118. It's some decent wines with it. It's definitely not the best wine yeast or maybe even probably not the best champagne yeast for that matter. I definitely prefer the Red Star Premier Blanc and Premier Rouge. The Premier Blanc for your lighter colored fruits, for like my white grapes, peaches, things like that. And the Premier Rouge for like my prune, plum wines and prunes and not prunes, plum wine. And for darker fruits, my red, dark grapes. Uh, Both make really good wine, very good. Um, so I kind of like those. Again, there's a lot of different wines. They're specialized for different things. So like meads, I think a D47. A lot of people like to use for meads, but yeah, Red Star makes some good stuff. I like Red Star. I use a lot of Red Star, Premier Rouge and Premier Blanc for most all my wines. There's Mash Brothers. What's going on, brother? Good to see you. How do you prepare your steel for the first time use? Good, excellent question. It'll vary depending on whether it's copper or stainless steel, of course. If it's copper, you're going to have to do some precautions to make sure that you don't have, solder flux. So you're going to have to do some, well, either way, you should do some test runs first, right? With just distilling water, running water through it, checking for leaks. But with the copper steel, you want to run some vinegar through it, so some water vinegar combination. That way you can clean and remove some. See, certain things are soluble to acids, and a vinegar water will be slightly acidic. Some things are soluble for water, and some things are soluble for alcohols, right? So that's a different solvent. So I recommend doing all. So I will run if it's a copper steel, I'll run a vinegar water first, and then I'll follow up with just a plain water to rinse off, clean out all that vinegar, right? And then I'll follow up with a sugar wash, and let that alcohol clean a lot of stuff out. So the first two runs, I'm not running any coolant in my condenser. I'm just letting the steam come out. So I'm just blowing things through, basically. It's not alcohol. So you're allowing it to blow through. You might want to do that outside because that vinegar is pretty loud coming out of there. You definitely don't want your wife coming home, or your girlfriend coming home after you've done that in the house, and the whole house smells like vinegar, man. It's not something you want to experience. So do it outside. If you do it in the garage, make sure you open a window, or just run your condenser out the window or something, blow it out. But and then run some alcohol through it, because alcohol will, break down other things and be more of a solvent for other things, so you kind of cover all your base: water solubility, acidic solubility, and alcohol solubility. But make sure you clean it well by hand first, and especially stainless. Stainless won't require the vinegar wash because we don't have to, worry about things of that nature. But I would definitely run the sugar and the other. But before you do that, get some isopropyl alcohol. If you don't have some heads or old shine or something that you want to pour on a cloth and just rub the inside of your steel. And I'm talking about using a lot of elbow grease with a rag, a washcloth or a rag, and get it. Use a lot of alcohol. And that isopropyl is fine. It's not something you're drinking. It evaporates. It doesn't leave any residue behind that's going to harm you. You're putting it in your cuts, so it's not harmful for your body. You're not drinking it. But it'll get all these polishing and buffing compounds off, and a lot of greases that are used in the stamping process. So that would be my recommendation, and also running it with the water, the vinegar, and the alcohol will give you an idea of if you have any leaks that you need to tend to before you run a mash that you plan on keeping. Right, once you run that experimental wash, don't keep that. A lot of people have the dentation. Well, it was pretty clean with the vinegar and water. It looks good. It smells good. I think it's pretty clean. I'm just going to keep it, because, man, that's a lot of alcohol. But just use that as a cleaner. You can put it in a bucket and just mark it as XXX cleaner, not to use again. And anytime you need to clean your steel and run some alcohol through it or anything like that, you can use it for cleaner, or you can use it to disinfect your countertops or kill grass or start your grill, or there a lot of different things you can do with it. Oh yeah, that's you could go into most any of these. Um, is this microphone sound very loud to you all? I guess nobody said anything, so I'm not sure. I can't hardly see what it's turned up to. It works all right, I guess. I can't barely hear myself in it, which is probably a good thing. But does it sound bassy or tinny? How does the microphone sound? I'm just curious. Some people are saying it sound kind of tinny to them, or does it sound realistic, bassy, or what? But yeah, it'd be most of these distilleries have some yeast that's maybe wasn't proprietary when it got there. Maybe it's something they bought from somebody else, but through just the use and reuse of it and propagating it and perpetuating it, it adapts. So it's definitely becomes proprietary. Well, the Quebec yeast is expensive, but it's an investment, and it's something that it's not a one-time use thing unless you're rich. I mean, you know, save it, reuse it. That's once you buy it, you own it, right? So it's something that you can keep using as long as you can keep it alive. It's like a fruit tree. As long as you keep that fruit tree alive, it's going to give you fruit, right? So a little bit of maintenance and keeping it up, and it's a good investment. A good yeast like that. But it's really good. I've got some 917 here that's pretty expensive yeast. That's 927, not 17. 927 from Firm Solutions. It's not cheap, and it's a superior. It's a good whiskey yeast. Yeah, they've been around a while. Sake, awesome. Yeah, yeah. Temperature, is everything. Different distillates, it's like certain beers, lagers have cold yeast, cold. You have to do it in the cold. Whereas like a tequila, it benefits from hot. So and it's different ends of the spectrum and different yeast geared for different things. So that blue yeast for your tequila, it loves that higher temperature fermentations. But try that with try 85 degrees with you know a good lager yeast. Not gonna be good. I don't know. Maybe it'll be real fruity and smelly. It might work out, but chances are it's gonna give you some off flavors. You out of here, O'Sheen? Good seeing you, brother. Give me a shout. Take it easy. Have a good Saturday, my friend. Yeah, that's a good point. And also, something that's not been talked about that they're starting to realize too is in um, when we feed, when we talk about nutrients and adding nutrients. Before, I did the same thing. I just whatever it needed, I dump it all in, right? And give all the nutrients that it needs, right? They're finding out now that it's best to step feed your mash the nutrients. So instead of giving it all on day one, give it 1/5 for 5 days in a row. For like for a standard wash. So instead of giving it all to it at once and having that big, huge growth cycle and feed cycle and then tapering off where there's less and less and less over the next few days, feed it, 20% for 5 days. Pretty interesting. They say it works better. So that's something that we need to start maybe adjusting as well. Right, right. And it's basically adaptation. So it's kind of an evolutionary thing, but it's just an adaptation. So things are adapting and changing to the environment, right? That you give them. It's a pretty interesting study on African cichlids. There used to be a lake in Africa that was one big, huge, long lake. And over the centuries, many, many centuries, maybe even tens of thousands of years actually, they found that because it's been drying up, that one big, huge lake that had all fish in common separated into several different lakes. And there's Lake Malawi, Lake Tanganyika, several other minor lakes. But in all these lakes, the fish adapted differently based on the pH of the water, the salinity of the water, the temperature, and all these other environmental factors. So what once started as a lake with all the common fish, you know, tens of thousands of years later, has evolved into unique species, subspecies of the same fish. So they all had the same ancestry, but they all evolved differently, and it's amazing to see how different they are. Dr. Axelrod wrote some books on it and stuff. Very interesting. Yeah, you definitely want to, when you're done with your mash, you definitely want to add some distilled water in there and neutralize that, right? Neutralize that alcohol and kind of proof it down. And just let it settle, and then take some of the water off, and you can add some more water, stir it up, and kind of cleanse it, and then you can pour it through a strainer and get a lot of your biomatter off, a lot of your cracked corn and other stuff off there that's still in there, and kind of just get the slurry of yeast and dead yeast, and you're going to get some other flocculants and stuff mixed in there, and it's fine. It's just a nutrient, and save that, right? And every once in a while, you, like Clint said, you can feed it just some sugar if you're using it for washers, or if you're using grains, I guess you could feed it some bran meal or whatever, or dead yeast. But there should be plenty of dead yeast in there for it to consume and work on, but you can add more dead yeast to it, or sugar just to keep it alive. But yeah, just perpetuating it and keeping it alive, and pretty interesting, And it's definitely something you'd want to use on an expensive yeast, And in sour mashing, if you're going, even if you don't sour mash, when you get done mashing in, like we're saying, take that proof down, rinse it, get the alcohol off of it, and then let it settle. Drain all that water off. You can rack it, siphon it off until you get down to the yeast bed, and then just jar it up and poke a few holes in the top. You can keep it in the refrigerator. Just let it degas in the refrigerator. It'll be fine. It'll make it go dormant. You don't have to feed it as often. And then when you get it out and get ready to use it, let it get to room temperature. Add you some sugar in there, shake it up, and let it rehydrate, and let it, start getting active again. Activate it with a little sugar. And use it on your next mash, and that way you can save a little bit in another jar, behind, and each time you do that, save it, and you can perpetuate it forever that way, as long as you don't have like years in between mashes. Yeah, just save half and use the other half in the next mash. Keep it going. Light malt extract? What about, what's the question, Mike? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it would be more acclimated to and would work better in that environment. Yeah, for sure. And with less stress. LME, I think, is light malt extract. Yeah, you can steep for potatoes just like corn. I don't think it takes as long to gelatinize a potato, though, as it does corn. I think probably 45 to 60 minutes would be plenty for a potato, whereas corn's going to be like 90, right, to 2 hours. So yeah, do it 190, steep it at 190, and then after about 45 minutes you should be good to go. And then add your high temp amylase, and then let it cool just like you would corn, and do your glucose, and then let it sit overnight. Let that glucose work, and then get your gravity reading in the morning. And then add sugar as needed, because it's probably not going to get as much starch out of that as you would a grain, probably as you would a corn. And I think you can probably increase it. I know somewhere I've got a chart that says how many pounds of potatoes, but I think it's something crazy. I think it's higher than what I did. I think I did like 5, but I'm adding sugar though, or dextrose. It's for beer brewing and for, I've used it. I've got LME. I've actually got some up here I've got to use. But yeah. And I think it's, a lot of people use it more for flavoring than conversion at this point. Than, I don't think a lot of people depend on it for conversion, diastatic, or anything like that. I think it's just more for flavor at this point. I think it contributes for that. That's what I've always used it for. Is just yeah. What I have is a lot thinner than honey. It's Bring bird seed. I made what I called a birdseed bourbon. I was getting some mixed grains, it had millet and corn and a bunch of different grains in it. You know, it doesn't have to be a special double boiler. You can just put one pot in another one, right? As long as it's a little bit smaller and kind of lift it up off the bottom a little bit, put something in there to space it. You don't have to have any fancy double boiler. I just use two stainless pot. One's a little bigger than the other one, and have the other one with water boiling on the outside and set it down inside of it. You don't have to have anything special, Richard. Am I that far behind? I am, man. Shit. Yeah, a quarter teaspoon. Yep. I'm far behind. I need to catch up. Well, it's not just about heat transfer. It's also about handling acidic and ease of working it, being able to hammer it out and make and solder it pretty easily and making it. Silver is expensive. It tarnishes way too easily. Acid would eat it up. So I think copper and stainless definitely the way to go. But the copper does have better thermal properties than stainless, for sure, and that's why a lot of people prefer it in cooking too. You'll see it a lot in pot and pans, and a lot of times you'll see it in a lot of pot and pans. It'll be copper on the bottom with stainless clad on the top, because that's kind of the best of both worlds, right? You got the heating, where it heats evenly over a large surface on the bottom, and then a stainless on the top where it's easy to clean. So I'd say if you could do a steel that way, it'd probably be pretty damn good too. Have a copper bottom for that heat dissipation, good heat transfer, and then stainless on the top so it's easy to clean. That'd be pretty nice. What's going on, Tanner? Good to see you, man. Is there a book for beginners or a class or something to help us new guys out? Get our feet under us. This is it. This is your class, bro. There are some books out there. There are a lot of books you can read. There's a lot of sources online but this is the place where you come and ask your questions and you can get them answered, right? So, but you get your feet wet right here, man. Any question that you've got, throw at us. There's no stupid questions, and do some reading at the same time, and bring your questions though, especially depending on some of the places. There's a lot of bad sources for information on the internet about making whiskey. I can just say that right now. Reddit, Facebook, probably not the best places to get your information. I'll just dealing with professionals, people that have done it, people with a lot of experience, not necessarily just commercial distillers, but people that have a lot of years in experience, would definitely be somebody to kind of seek out, and that's what we give you here. So read a lot. Look at Old George, Barley Notes. That's some good watching on YouTube. Watch some of Fiabilly's stuff. And look at some of our videos and stuff, and start listening to some of our old videos and stuff. That's all we deal with is questions and answers. So there's only been a couple of episodes where we kind of, like Christmas, we got a little off kilter and talked about some off topic stuff. But for the most part, yeah, every podcast we answer a lot of the basic questions. So. Going back and just start listening to some of the old episodes. There's a few that we did early on that we probably should do something like that again, where we just delve it into the heavier science of it, because a lot of times we tend to cater to just the beginners on here and not so much the intermediates and advanced. And we got a lot of viewers that are commercial, and we've got a lot of viewers that are wanting to go commercial that probably would benefit and like some of that information. So maybe in the next month or so we can delve back into another science episode and invite Alan. We were supposed to have him last month on. We didn't get a chance to, kind of a helter-skelter month, but with all the ice and all the shit we had to deal with. But maybe we can get him on here sometime this month and do a little bit more intermediate, advanced episode for that. But yeah, any question you have, brother, we're here for that, and that's our whole purpose. So I do encourage you to look at old George. He's got a lot of good information out there. There's a few little things that I might disagree with, but for the most part, pretty solid guy, great guy, and good, very informative, and little things, just a few little things that I disagree with on, but for the most part, I agree 100% with him. Well, I'd say 95%. So, and I'd say there's a lot of people that, that agree with most of what I say, but about 5%. So, but there's a lot of opinion stuff too that I try not to put off as fact. But yeah, any question you got, we're here for you, brother. It's whatever question you got, whether it be what steel should I get, we'll ask you what you want to make, all the way up to we can give you recipes in the group. So join. Earlier posted the link and the name of the DIY Shine and Steel Building site on Facebook. You can jump in there and ask any question. We got some files and always adding new files, and we can help you out. We can have you making top-notch liquor in no time, brother. But as far as book-wise, actually, I've got a lot of books in my files, but this little issue called copyright that I don't want to violate and get sued over, that a lot of other groups don't mind so much. So, I'm not saying join other groups, but some other groups post a lot of books and stuff that I just can't do because of the copyright, and I don't want to get my ass sued. So, for that reason, you might, but like there's a pretty good little recipe book on there, like I mentioned, from Stampede. I don't think they carry anymore. Actually, I think it's probably beyond its. I think it only copyright for so long anyway. But and Alan Bishop's books, he's got some books out. But yeah, it's let me see what books I've got. I can look and see what books I got, but I can't post them. So, but I can look at them and tell you. Let me sort these. And let me sort them by size and view by detail. Okay, so my books are going to be the larger size ones, right? Yeah, here's the PDF book, 110 recipes from Stampede, but that's just recipes. How to make moonshine process, guide to making moonshine. Trying to find some actual textbooks on it. I know I've got some. Foxfire Books was an old one that had a little bit informative. That's what I kind of started on, cut my teeth on. But I know I've got some Alaskan Bootlegger's Bible. That's a pretty good one. Um, it's so hard for me to look through because I've got like literally hundreds and hundreds of files, and there's some large ones that you would think be books, but it's large because it has pictures. So it's just like a recipe with pictures, and it makes it look like it's a big, huge book, but it's not. Um, Rick Morris, The Joy of Home Distilling, books like that. Ultimate Guide to Making Your Own Vodka, pretty good book. I know I've got some. I think I've got some actual textbook. The Alcohol Textbook, fourth edition. Let me see what the copyright on this was like. I might be able to share this one on there. It might be old. The Alcohol Textbook, fourth edition, and this is actually a book that's used for classwork. Reference for the beverage, fuel, and industrial alcohol industries. Third edition, published 99. This is fourth edition, published in 2003. No, may not be reduced in any material form, including focus, story. Yeah, nope. Okay, nope. Yeah, I don't want to get sued. I mean, I got a family full of attorneys. I know better than put that kind of shit out there. But it's an excellent book. If you can search other places for it, I'm sure you could probably do a Google search for it. So Google search The Alcohol Textbook, fourth edition. You'll probably come up with the same exact thing I'm looking at. I pulled it off another group, and yeah. But that's definitely a good. It's a textbook. Excellent book for sure. But yeah, I've got a bunch, but I can't put them out there like that. I don't want to, and I've got several different versions here. Trying to see if there's other books I have. But I would search that. Search The Alcohol Textbook, fourth edition, and it's in a PDF. Let me do a quick Google on that and see what they got. The Yep, popped right up. The Alcohol Textbook, a reference for beverage, fuel, and industry, and it's $154. Wow, wow, wow. That's why I'm not sharing it, man. They'll sue your ass off if I shared that. Damn, man, that's golden. But I will say that it's in some of the other moonshine groups. I'm not going to mention any names, but if you look in some of the larger groups and some of their files, it's probably going to be there. I didn't realize that was $150. This is $429 on eBay. That's just insane. $154.50 on Better World Books. Well, maybe I should just start selling that some bitch for $50 pop until I get busted, right? Yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's a good book if you can find it. Look around at some of the other groups. You won't find that in our group. I don't think it's unless Joe Rutledge put it in there. He might have put it in there. I didn't. I've never checked. Let me have a look. Hell, he might have stuck that in there. I better check it before I say anything. Okay, I'm just going to search textbook. Okay, it's not in there. Good. Yeah. But yeah, check some of the groups. in their files. It's definitely going to be in some of those. I know I pulled it out of those groups. Um, Maybe Moonshine Life and some of those groups. It might be in some of their files. I know JB has a huge collection of files, so it might be in one of those groups for sure. But I would check it. What's going on, Wormy McStumbles? Good to see you, brother. Hell yeah, man. Yeast makes us happy. You ain't got nothing to be sorry for. We love yeast too, man. Thank you, brother. It's been a little bit in the making. Believe it or not, it was all white when I first grew it out, and now color. Usually you'd think it started out with color and then got white, but it was all white, and then started getting some red in it as time passes. Appreciate it, man. That's right, man. We're here for you, brother. You got any questions you want? Right here's the place. We can answer your questions. Every question you got. Unless it gets crazy. I believe that's, well, I mean, if it's stainless steel and it's clean, there are a lot of stainless, exhausts, on these cars these days. So, I mean, if you're talking about just using stainless exhaust pipes, yeah, you could definitely use some stainless exhausts, but I don't know if I'd brew in it. But you could definitely make your little shotgun condenser inside one. They're what, 2 inch? Most exhaust pipes about 2 inch, so yeah, you could put a ferrule on it. Probably a little bit cheaper than buying the spools that we get, but I'm not sure what quality of stainless it is. If it's a 304, what it would be rated at, but yeah, I think you'd probably be able to find that book if you look around in some of those Moonshine Life groups. JB Wagon Maker, he's got a huge amount of files in there. So if you join those groups, just type out textbook. It might be in there. But I just, for legal purposes, I can't put it in the file section. I don't want to get sued. And I know chances are nobody's going to, but I ain't taking that kind of chance. I don't want to deal with that kind of headache. That's a lot of money trying to defend yourself in court. That shit gets expensive. Yeah. I've thought about the same, and that's why I decided, hell with it, I ain't got time to do all that. I just come on here and tell everything I know. If anybody wants to ask, they can come here. You can read it, or you can come here and ask it. I'm here every Saturday, brother, unless I'm at a party or a festival, and yeah, I ain't got nothing going on next weekend. So I'll be here, brother. Sorry I missed last weekend, but we had a little shindig I had to go to. Yes, sir. There's lots of good wild geese out there, and there's lots of bad ones too. So you gotta work with them and see what you got and bring them and acclimate them to whatever you want to use them for. Yep, there's some good ones, and there's some that are pretty bad. I'd say for the most part, a lot of them. Now it depends on if it's a true wild yeast or if it's just a yeast that's not necessarily wild but living in the wild. So there's strains of yeast that, like, if you have a distillery down the road and you happen to have some yeast on a pine cone that's outside your house, or it's probably coming from the distillery, right? But if you're like in an apple orchard, and you don't have anything like that around, and you got some natural yeast, yeah, that's going to be more of a wild yeast. Or if you're in a far more of a farm environment and away from a distillery and a mash house. So not all wild yeast is good. In fact, a lot of it's not that good. A lot of it doesn't have alcohol tolerance. It doesn't have pH tolerance. It works off pretty quickly. It stresses easily, and it produces off flavors when it does. But some of them are great, especially the ones that you find on the fruit itself. They can be pretty good. But at the same time, they can suck, So it's kind of hit and miss with them. That's why a lot of distilleries, a lot of winemakers, a lot of beer makers like to kill everything off and introduce their own yeast. That way they have something that they can control and that they know that the flavor is good. And they need consistency. So a lot of them do that for consistency purposes. So each subsequent wine will taste just like the last batch, right? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Read up on the Tanganyika and Lake Malawi, and I'm trying to think of the other lake. There's another big lake there. Malawi, Tanganyika, and I can't remember the other one. It's been too long, but yeah, it's very interesting how each fish adapted over tens of thousands of years. Very interesting read. Read about the cichlids in Lake Tanganyika and Lake Malawi. That other lake was out on the tip of my tongue right when I said that, and I can't. It's another. They call them the Rift Lakes, and if I was a little bit younger, my mind was about me, I could tell you that third lake. That's the other large main one. But there's lots. There's like 5 or 6 different Finger Lakes that are all in that Rift Valley. But it's very interesting, and it's a very interesting read in how things evolve and adapt. People say, I don't believe in evolution. Evolution is just adaptation, right? We adapt. Cool. Yep, and hey, maybe she used some of that yeast to make some bread, some sourdough. What about instant potato flakes? I think those were probably gelatinized already. They may be gelatinized already. But yeah, you can use them. I think they're actually gelatinized. Let me see if they're gelatinized. You might not have to cook those as long, but you're still gonna have to bring them up to temp to add the high temp to. And it's basically just like cornflakes, flaked corn. It's basically tomato that's rolled and flaked out, right, and dried out and flaked. So uh, basically, probably gelatinized. And I'm pretty sure they are. Yes, they are. They're fully pre-gelatinized during the manufacturing process, so you don't have to gelatinize them. They're Just heat them up 185 and add your high temp amylase and start from there. You don't have to do the 45-minute steep or whatever. Yep. It's just like the flake corn and flake everything. Steam roll. Take the moisture out of it, and that heat process from the steaming instantly gelatinizes it. It's so fucking hot and steams, it gelatinizes them instantly. Good question though. So yeah, you'd be good to go. But yeah, it's headache separating. But once you add the amylase, you'll be surprised at how they start breaking down and thinning out and hydrolyzing and becoming a liquefied. Yeah, it's sad, brother. Tough thing to lose. I can't imagine losing him, man. It tear my heart out. Yeah, yeah. Cyrus has some good stuff too. Yep. Shit, brother, we love having you here, man. Yeah, Cyrus Nods. I'm looking forward to meeting him. We haven't met yet, so I'm definitely looking forward to meeting him and chatting with him. We're admins in some common groups and stuff, but never really had a chance. We both have our own thing going on, and never really had a chance to uh, be at the same place, same time, and meet. And I went to a different Arkansas, right, festival than he has. But definitely look forward to meeting him. Seems like a pretty chill guy, and I love that off the grid living stuff, man. Definitely into all that. Dig list. I listen to some of this stuff too, man. It's pretty cool. Definitely cool. It's something everybody should learn and know for sure. Yeah, I'd say you could find them somewhere. Yeah, I'd say if you deep dive enough and get on the dark web and all this other stuff, you can find them. Um, but I'd say in some of these groups too, I'm pretty sure that I might have actually pulled that from one of the prior groups I spoke of, Moonshine Life. So I'm sure it might be in one of their group in their biggest group files section. So if you want to join that, JB Wagonmaker runs those groups. He's pretty cool. Yeah, and if you have the title to these books like that, again, you can find them if you look hard enough. I'm glad you brought that up. I just noticed there is a court case that is coming up in the District Appeals Court. Sixth District is Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, and Michigan. That's the 6th district. So there is a case coming up right now concerning whether or not home distilling should be legalized for personal consumption at home. And there's an article. I posted it in the group if y'all want to link to it from the group. And I just posted it earlier today. And hopefully that'll go through. A lot of people are like, well, it's going to take a lot of the fun out of it. Well, the enjoyment I get out of it is the hobby itself and the love of making different distillates and the science of it and the experimenting and trying new things and coming up with unique things and maybe something different, right? So hopefully we'll get that passed where people will be able to, in Missouri, like it is in Missouri, you can make it in your own home. You can't take it out of your home. You can't sell it. People can come to your home and drink it, but you can't take it out. unless you get a special permit for special circumstances. They said like a wedding or something like that, a party or something like that, that you can get a permit for and take your liquor to that party, but it has to stay confined in that party and go back. And I'm sure they would want documentation or send somebody, and I'm sure the permit isn't cheap either. But if you want to distill at home, you can. And so, hopefully that will become legal, and we'll be able to do small quantities at home and be able to speak more freely. And I would love to be able to make videos showing people of the process and stuff, but at the same time, I mean, that's you process showing a video of you breaking the law. Not too wise a thing to do right now, so maybe once it becomes illegal, or if I move to Missouri or something, I could do that. But till that day and time, I just kind of just say, I've heard that this, I've always heard that this is the way you want to do it, right? What's the kind that grow out of oak? Shiitake. That's what I always wanted to do. The ones that grow out of oak. What makes you think I don't have Jesus? You're not being judgmental, are you? You don't think I'm a religious person? Didn't Jesus make what? Now you come in and spread the love of Jesus, but don't spam the group or else I have to block you. But just say Jesus is love. That's all cool. Just don't spam the group, and you'll be good. And you have a good day yourself. Yeah, I don't trust my knowledge either. I had some growing in my yard, and everybody's like, "Oh, those are delicious." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take your word for it. I ain't going out there and picking them and eating them. Hell no." Yeah, those are chicken of the woods and all the yellow ones, and yeah, those are awesome. No, nope, 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 nope. I've seen too many Survivor and too many of these shows where they eat the wrong mushroom. Yeah, no, nope. No, I know better. Yeah, if I was starving and I had to kind of go buy a book and kind of match them up, I could see me doing that, but I'd have to be awful damn hungry, man. I just don't trust it. I don't have enough knowledge to, and I know they can be deadly. So, yep, that's a fact. Yeah, is the shiitake the one you grew out of the wood? That's funny that you mentioned that. That's the ones I'm interested in as well. I'm about caught up. But yeah, the ones that you grow out of wood, just making chops and cuts in the wood and growing it out of the wood. What is that? The shiitake? Yeah, yeah. You can make beer and wine in most all states and share it with friends. You can't sell it, but actually you can sell it, JJ, um, as a hobbyist. You can sell wine and beer. But you may have to get right special licenses and permits. But legally, yeah, you don't have to have. Uh, I'm not sure what each state's going to vary. I do know that. I do know in our state, you can make wine and beer and sell it. You just have to make sure that you disclose that on your taxes. It's a tax issue. So you have to disclose it as a hobby income, and you write off your losses and expenses just like you would any business. But you have to report it on your taxes. The biggest crime would be tax evasion if you got caught selling it. But yeah, there's labeling things that you have to go on, and it has to be approved and done a certain way, right? It has to be labeled specifically, and they may want to test your proof, and if it's not what you say it is, because you're taxed on the proof. And but you're allowed to make so many hundreds of gallons in some states, thousands in others of wine and beer, and you can sell them. And it's definitely different. Every state's different. That's one thing I think strange too is I think when it comes to certain things, it should be federally regulated. And if it's legal in one state, I think it should be legal in all states, right? I mean, how come certain people have freedoms in one state that we all don't share? This is the United States, right? But I don't know, kind of strange. The grappa, I have the grappa from Italy. I've not tried the grappa from Italy. I've tried Brian Battles, and he makes great grappa. Mine's better. I like mine better, but he makes excellent grappa. Um, the grappa, the traditional grappa sucks. That's and Brian's isn't a traditional grappa either. But traditional grappa made with pumice and sugar sucks. That's just all. Let's just say call it for what it is. It's not that great because it's made with skins, very little juice, very little sugars. You got skins and stems. You're adding a lot of sugar to it, and it's just not that great. I've made traditional grappa at the same time I did my grappa, and did them both the exact same way. And except in one, I used the juice that I got from the grapes, right? And then in the other, I used the skins, the pumice, and the stems, and everything that was left over, right? And night and day. It was, I mean, one was just not good, and the other was just some of the best shit you'll put your lips to. I mean, it's so sweet, so unique, and bubble gummy, right? I mean, it's just such a sweet. I think Amanda was talking about some pine cone stuff the other day, like the striped gummy flavor. That's what my grappa tastes like to me. The white grape grappa tasted kind of like a chewing gummy sweet. It was just so good. Yeah, I've got very little of it left, but it's some of the best stuff I've ever drank. And if somebody else gave it to me, I'd say the same thing. I'd say, man, that's some of the best. I've never drank anything like it. It's just so sweet, and I mean, some people might not like it because it's sweet and it has that flavor. Some people might not like that flavor, so it might not be for everybody. But it's so much different. It's definitely unique. But the traditional grappa that I did alongside of it with the exact same, products, they were actually a byproduct, wasn't that great at all. It was just a common flavored sugar shine. It wasn't that good. Uh, and that's traditional grappa. That's how it got its start roots. Is the the people that were the wine owners, and they had employees come pick grapes and work at the wineries, and when they got done with mashing. Of course, I'm sure there's probably a lot more meat and a lot more juice in it than what I when I got done with it. Um, so I doubt they used as much pectic enzymes or anything like that that really just robbed everything out of it. So I would say it probably had some more natural sugars and things in it then, um, than you know than what mine did. Mine was pretty much just skins and stems, and it was horrible. It was basically a sugar shine with stems in it. Wasn't that great? But I'd say the traditional one had a little bit more. But it just, it can't compare to, just the juice, pure juice from the grapes. No, um, not much water or sugar added at all. Concentrates, yes, but hardly any sugar or water added at all. Just mostly natural grape juices, and it made some really good wine. Some of the best wine too. Really hot. It was like a 18% wine, 16% wine. It was really sweet and good. And I called it Sweet Heat. And I've got a few jars of it left. I think I handed a few of those jars out. I think Ginger, Tom's wife, liked it, and Ann loved it, and a lot of people, everybody that's drank it likes it. If you like a sweet white wine, you'll like it. But it's very high proof. It's like drinking a mixed drink, but like drinking wine at the same time. So it's like a fortified wine, but it wasn't fortified. It was fermented that way. So it was good. But as a distillate, it was one of the few wines that got better. It's pretty good, and I don't have very much of it left. There's probably, I think Big Easy or Wes or somebody might have some, but I got maybe a pint left. They contain a lot of different vegetables and things, man. Pretty interesting. Yeah, I have to go by a book, man. I'm not going by memory. I remind you of Chew, huh? Yeah, I've seen a lot of these mushrooms, places selling spores and stuff to grow your own mushrooms. I always wanted to grow the shiitake and just get like stacks of wood out there and grow the shiitakes because I love the big shiitake mushrooms with my steak and stuff. So you can't sell wine or beer or anything. That's interesting. Yeah, here you can do it as a hobby, but it has to be documented. And I don't know. I'm caught up. Does this microphone sound tinny or bassy or normal, or I'm just curious because I've had some people say it sounded kind of like I'm in a can or tinny, and others like they don't get that. So just curious how it sounds. I know I asked that earlier and I might have missed somebody answering, but just curious how it sounds to y'all. No, it doesn't take high proof. It just takes quantity. What are my thoughts on cornflake liquor? You can make good liquor with cornflake. I mean, there's flaked corn out there. It's not like the cereal. I mean, you can make good liquor with the cereal. Seriously. I mean, it's just basically flaked corn, and they steamroll it to make the flakes. So it's gelatinized and ready to go, and you can convert it and make good liquor with it. Um, a lot of it is fortified with vitamins and stuff, which is going to be okay. The addition of iron is not that great. So if you get some that doesn't have a lot of fortification with iron, it'd probably be a little better. Which is why just regular corn flakes, flaked corn, um, probably be a little better because they don't fortify it with iron and stuff. like a cereal corn. But yeah, it makes good liquor. Absolutely. So does bran flakes. Well, you'll have to make me sometime and try it. If you've tried the grappa in Italy, I want you to try mine so you can compare it. But it was really nice. It's very sweet. It's something else. So you'll have to come to a festival, man, and try it. Let me know, because I've never been to Italy. So the sound is okay, a little bit tinny, but okay. Thank you. Yeah, you still need to use amylase. Now, the flake corn, what that does is it's basically been gelatinized, so you don't have the cooking process to go through, but you still have the starches to break down. So you'll just take your flake corn up to 185, and that's the temperature that you want to use the high temp amylase at. It's most active at that temperature. So you just use the proper amount of pounds per gallon and cook it up to 185 degrees, or just add it to boiling water and let it cool down to 185 degrees, and then add your high temp amylase in there, stir it in real good, and let that sit. And then, when it gets to about 145, 55, if you want to add some malted barley or some other grains in there, you can. And then once it gets down to, depending on the glucose that you use, now there's some beta glucanase that you'll want to use at about 140, and then there's a glucoamylase that you use at around 110. But there's different sources of amylase and glucose and different combinations. Some companies use combinations of different enzymes at the same time in their product. So follow the label, what temperatures they call for. If they say 130, 110, 140, just whatever temp they call for, just follow the temps on the label. If they don't have a temp, look online, and if you can't find it anywhere, I'd find another source of enzyme where they do tell you. You can get flake corn pretty much most of your feed stores will have it. Let's see. Let's see. A lot of brewery places will have it. Label Peelers has it. Websterant has it. I mean, um, it's expensive. It's not cheap. It's just steamrolled. Uh, they use it in livestock feed though, so you can buy it at some of your feed stores. I'm trying to find the Tractor Supply. There's something. Here we go. Here's a ASE Feed and Supply. Producers. See, I'm trying to find a source that uses it for feed. Here we go. 50-pound flaked, 14.29. Says it's going to be a little bit more expensive than your cracked corn, but that ain't too bad, really. That's a pretty good price, actually. Usually it's quite a bit more expensive if you get the Bryce, the stuff that's made for alcohol. It's like $100 for a 50-pound bag, so it's expensive as fuck. I'm trying to find some feed stores because that's really all you need. Is this? This isn't something you're gonna put in your bowl with sugar and eat. Right? Here we go. Premium steamed flake corn. 14.48 for a 50-pound bag. Thank you. That's it. ASE Feed and Supply Store, and they're out of probably Midwest somewhere. Let's see, Ohio. Okay, Plain City, Ohio. So yeah, I knew it'd be Midwest somewhere here. Here's another Producers Co-op Association steam flaked. I don't see a price anywhere. Crimped oats, corn chops, shelled corn. So let me see if Tractor Supply has it. Well, damn it. I don't see flakes at Tractor Supply. Alright, some feed stores has it, not all. What's that other main, not Tractor Supply, what's the other? Let me check Southern States. There's another one too, I can't remember what the name of it is. Southern States. Let's see. I don't see any there. Okay, so what's the other main one? Tractor Supply, what's the other one? Come on, y'all, help me out here. Now, when I say flake corn, it's not the same as corn flake the cereal. Corn flake the cereal is fortified with vitamins and minerals and iron. Flaked corn is a more raw product. It's not something I'd eat in a bowl of cereal. You know, when I talk about, I mean, you could. It's probably not going to kill you or hurt you for sure. It won't. But it's probably not going to taste real good. Yeah, there's definitely a difference in beta glucanase and glucoamylase. Yeah, it does. All your grains that contain the glucans, like the wheat, the rye, the barley, the oats, all those contain beta glucanase, and that's what helps break them down naturally. Right? That's a good source, I guess, of them. But Rural King, thank you. I couldn't think of Rural King. Let's see if they have it. Tried all the others. I don't know what the hell's going on. May have to just look it up and go to that outfit in Ohio. Sound like a pretty damn good price. Probably should buy it from them and start putting my own little Bryce tag on it and charging $90 a 50-pound fucking bag. Buy it for 14, turn around and sell it for 90. Hell yeah. Nope. So that might be a thing to do, man. Go up there and get that flake corn and start selling it on Amazon cheap. Undercut Bryce. Make a real fancy sounding name. Make it sound all legit and official. Make a fortune. Do they? What kind of price they got on it, Clint? That one outfit out of Ohio, that wasn't a bad price. If I could just, yeah, that's a pretty good price. Here's Blue Seal steamed flake corn, Osmond's Farm. Yep, $14.49 a bag. Maize flake corn, $1.99. That's homebrew stores, so they're gonna charge you out the yin yang. So yeah, that's ASC Feed Supply sounds like a pretty good place to go. Bet your ass next time I'm up here in Ohio, I'll be coming back with a trunk full of that shit. $14.48 for a 50-pound bag. It's just steamrolled corn, is all it is. Shit, yeah, man, that's a good deal. I need to probably share that feel. I definitely will share that with my buddy. All right, y'all. It's almost 11:30. It's been a good Saturday night, man. We've had a good night hanging out. We have to have us a drink for the road. I'm glad y'all hung out with me and Clint. Look forward to having you back on Tuesday. Random questions. Anyone heard that a diabetic should make the best malt liquor? I've heard that there's sugar in it. You know, their body doesn't remove all the sugars properly, and I don't know. It probably has some enzymes in it too, but I don't know. I don't think I'd have to pass on that. 6 24-ounce flaked corn. That's pretty pricey, but that's delivered. But this place had it 50 pounds. Check out ASE Feed and Supply Store in Ohio. Steam flake corn, $14.48. Premium steam flake corn. That's what you want. I mean, this isn't Kellogg's, okay? It's something that you eat. Now this is an animal feed, but it also makes damn good liquor, and you don't have to cook it, right? You don't have to gelatinize it for 90 minutes. You just put that shit in there for 185 degrees for your high temp, and $14.48 for a 50-pound bag is that's a value. I'm going to get some. Bet your ass when I go up to farm. Well, let's see where that is. I'll go up to find a bottle. Unless it's up there next to the lake, 10 hours, long way off. Let's see here. I don't know exactly where they are located. I love the internet, man. I wish I had that my whole life growing up. All the knowledge in the whole world right at your fingertips, man. It's amazing. I used to sit and read encyclopedias, man, as a kid. I just sit and look at them. Well, damn it. I just want to see a map, please. Here we go. Plain City. Let's zoom out here and see. Oh, hell. Well, kind of between Dayton and Columbus. Closer to Columbus, but not too crazy far from me. Probably about 2.5, 3 hour drive. 2.5, I guess. 2.5 hour drive. But next time I go to Dayton, it's not far from Dayton. It's it's closer to Columbus than Dayton, so. But still, that's about the same distance from Dayton to Cincinnati. But not on the main roads. I guess you take 70 over and 42 up. But yeah, I'll definitely shop around though and see if I can find a better price. But that's pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you all on Tuesday. Everybody have a good weekend, and yeah, have a good rest of your night. Take a sip and sleep. Yeah, it's about that time. I'm gonna hit my Sprinanza. I gotta do a little game time in before I get to bed. But yeah, everybody that's tuning in for the first time tonight, definitely get back with us. And if you're interested in the hobby, interested in winemaking, interested in beer making, interested in making your own liquor, whether it be gin or vodka, tequila, whatever, whiskeys, you found a pretty good place to hang out, chat, and learn all about the hobby. And See if it's something that might be for you. For those of you that are just getting into it, stick with us. Bring your questions, and definitely ask questions before you get into the hobby, because there's certain mistakes you can make when you buy. You know, you don't want to buy the wrong thing, and you know, there's certain facts and there's certain opinions, and you definitely need guidance. You know, to buy the right thing. Experience, right? So you can learn the hard way, or you can talk to people that learned the hard way, right? All right, brother. Yeah, I'll be in there. I'll be getting on. It's a lot of fun though. Go in and do some gooping. But anyway, we'll see y'all Tuesday. Everybody have a great rest of your week. Peace out, shine on. Love y'all, and see you on Tuesday, 8 Eastern. Peace out.